Did you like write out the script and everything?
Brian has not seen the PowerPoint presentation. He's doing master presentations. Yeah. Every slide is going to be a mystery.
All right, everybody, we'll go ahead and get started with the, since it is 5:30, we'll go ahead and get started with the City Council study session for Tuesday, August 4th, 2026. Welcome everybody that's here in person and watching or listening at home. We have two items on the agenda. The first one is a discussion with the University of Oklahoma School of Architecture, Construction Science, School of Architecture, Construction Science regarding student projects in city parks. And we have Parks Director here to lead us in that discussion.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Council, for letting us present today. Jason Olson, Director of Parks and Recreation, and I got Brian Bloom with the University of Oklahoma School of Architecture here with me. We're going to talk really quickly about a potential partnership between the School of Architecture and Norman Parks. A very exciting thing that has a lot of possibilities, I think, beyond just this year. But we're going to try to hop into this. This is a possible partnership with them helping us with things like shelters, stages, or future build projects that we can do inside parks. So I'm going to let Brian talk a little bit about the American School of Design that's at OU.
Cool. Thanks, Jason. Thank you, everybody, for the time today and tonight, I guess, whatever time it is. So I teach in the Construction Science Division in the School of Architecture. I'm a professor, and I teach several classes there, one of which is a program that's called the American School of Design Bill, which is sort of homage to Bruce Goff and some people that were doing some things in and around Norman several decades ago. But we run a program, this will be our 10th year now, where we task fifth-year architecture students to work with a community partner as well as a handful of fourth-year or senior construction science students to build a real project for a partner. So we've worked for nonprofits, we've worked for tribes, we've worked for schools, and so our program is parallel to the school calendar. So our clients sort of come to us in the summer, we meet directly with them, and then by the time we show up in the fall, the students are sort of ready to launch into some problem that we've created or some facility for them. So this is a real project, and a lot of them have never realized one of their designs before or even built something physically with their hands. So it's certainly an educational model. Not unique, like there's other schools that do this. Auburn probably had the flagship program with Rural Studio. University of Colorado has a program, but we've been doing this for 9 years. We kind of resurrected an old program that used to exist in our college. But we start in September. We work pretty quickly to come up with a design concept for our clients. And then generally by September, beginning of October, we've settled in on what we're going to do, and we're starting work. And so we start foundation work in the fall, and then by the end of December, we sort of got foundations and slab done. And then in the spring, we come back and finish the build out. We exclude things that we can't do from a licensing standpoint, like mechanical, electrical, plumbing. Our projects are typically, if we scroll through some of these, kind of like foundation, shell structure. So things like pergolas, greenhouses, outdoor classrooms. We've done fully enclosed projects as well. But we kind of bite stuff off that's in the 600 to 1,200 square feet scale, something that we know we can deliver in a semester's time. The model is that we donate the students' labor 100%. There's no labor cost to our clients. The clients typically provide material and any heavy rental equipment that we would need to execute the work. And generally, it's really been overall positive process. Our students are super hyped and stoked to get to work on this. You'll probably not find more motivated builders coming fresh out of school and wanting to see something get done. And then sometimes our clients will have things they want to add after, and we kind of accommodate things like that. Generally, we've done a range of project scopes and scales, anything from like $10,000 or $15,000 the first year to $80,000 or $90,000. That's kind of the range of projects that we've done. We typically, like, people come to us with bigger projects, but we can't generally get them done in 2 semesters. So this definitely has to sort of start and finish during the school calendar year. But one thing that Jason and I have talked a lot about is the sort of the immersion that the students would get in the municipal process, which is something we're also trying to get our students more awareness about. And so working with you guys and you guys is helping us educate what students need to know as they're kind of coming out and working on real projects that are going to go through permitting and all that stuff. So that's kind of the quick, we want to go into the project we talked about?
Yes, exactly. Brian missed rehearsal today, so he doesn't know what slide is next. But as we started talking about the relationship with parks, so what's really cool about the possibility of working with the School of Architecture and having this is that we have 70 parks. We have an abundance of projects that they'll probably never be able to catch up to, so that we know that coming into a year, we'll always have something for them to do. Either it's a shelter or a stage or some minor adjustment that we look at as minor that is big for them in the park system. And so what we honed in to this year for their project is in conjunction with the TSET Kids Space Playground project, is that we're going to go over there and in that section where the playground's going to get built, it's going to be a complete clean slate. So we're working with them to build a brand new shelter that matches the new architecture of what we're doing out there at Reeves Park. So we're really excited about this. And when you start talking about a shelter, from our viewpoint, when we start newly with a shelter that's undesigned with an architect, once we get from design all the way through build, we're usually in a neighborhood of $250,000 to $300,000 pretty easily. Once you start talking about design, build, and everything that comes along with that. And also this fits perfectly within that scope. When you start talking about just a plain shade shelter that goes out there, there's no MEP that goes along with that. So this fits perfectly in what they are asking to do and what we actually need to be done. But I want to give Brian a little bit more chance to go through some of his projects that he's done in the past.
Councilmember Plodge, I have a question.
It can wait. Go ahead.
Okay. So this is the last maybe 5 or 6 years of projects we started in 2017. This was a project we've always also kind of challenged students to try to approach things from a progressive design and constructability standpoint. So this was all a CNC fabricated plywood trailer that we built for the Wichita tribe, actually during COVID, really challenging project to get done. And this was also came through a grant that they had applied for. So they were traveling around to some of their constituencies and doing different medical services and vaccinations and things like that out of here. So this was done in spring of 21. We got into the outdoor grow space, not come out right, but we got into the outdoor classroom and sort of grow house space for schools that were interested kind of post-COVID and doing some gardening programs and things like that. And so we hooked up with Engage Learning, a nonprofit, and then worked with them as well as some other schools to build greenhouse space. So this is down Mark Twain, near downtown Oklahoma City, and so it's part of an outdoor program where they do learning programs related to gardening and growing, things like that. That was the next year. Did another greenhouse, same kind of concept. This was for Crutcho Public Schools in the east side of Oklahoma City. Completed the following year. And then the next year we did one for John Rex, downtown Oklahoma City. The students also, they submit these for design awards and things, and this project actually won a national design award as part of sort of the class. The students are always, kind of trying to push a lot of their own ideas, and we kind of came back to a different type of plywood frame. And so We are always like, it's not something that we just sort of go out and do or present these concepts to our customers, making sure it's exactly what they want, obviously, as well. I mean, this was a challenging project to get done, like while students were there on the playground working, trying to just from a timing standpoint. But overall, this is our biggest project. It was about 1,200 square feet, all polycarbonate shell, probably our biggest scale project. But you know, when we were going up there, we kind of looked at, we really want to serve Norman. Like, we want to do projects in and around Norman. We want to do stuff that's more local to the school. So the following year, we worked for Sunhive in, I guess, northeast part of town. If you don't know, they're a nonprofit that services their community, their members, young adults that have aged out the school system that maybe have developmental challenges and things like that. And so they've got programs for them. So our students built this kind of community building for them in a multi-purpose building, fully enclosed, but again, no MEP. And then this last year, we just finished a project for Wildcare down in Noble, and this is a native bat and chimney swift rehabilitation building that was completely round and very difficult from a lot of ways. But we've learned a lot about how bats need to rehabilitate, and the students, like, this is almost like all that they're doing. So they really go all in and trying to find solutions for what worked for our clients. So this was a challenging but really fun project. And then Jason and I started talking about stuff he's got coming up. So just a lot of like the scope of what we're delivering and sort of how we deliver it, I think ties into what you guys are sort of trying to do with your parks.
So as you know, we haven't got our award letter yet, but we got notice that we got a TSET grant for $600,000 to rebuild Kid Space. Kid Space initially came online in 1999. That playground is far beyond its useful life. We've gotten the most out of it. Very, very big credit to our park maintenance crew for keeping that playground alive so long. So you look at that little yellow box with the red square around that, that will be our project area. We don't necessarily know just yet. We're working with our architect to decide where the playground's going to be placed, and we'll also work with them to ultimately decide where the shelter is going to be placed. But that is our project area, and Brian, I went to him and was like, what do you need for materials and supplies? So we set a $75,000 budget. That's not necessarily what they're going to spend, but they have to stay within that. That budget will have that set aside on a agreement with the School of Architecture. They also asked for a 10% admin fee, and that is set aside for basically paying for everything that goes outside of the M&O or M&S. Sorry, I'm so used to saying operation, but material and supplies budget that goes along with that construction. And the scope, when we start talking about that, we're depending on them to design and construct everything from the shelter. And we're excited from the process that we are quite familiar in the Parks Department of working with an architect and starting from the ground zero and working with everything from design, and then coming back with us from a concept and cost projection on how much that's going to cost, and then we're going to work with them to kind of do the same thing to give these fifth-year architectural and construction students what we consider a real design and construction experience. We've even talked to Public Works and Planning both to go through the phase where they have to submit and get everything reviewed, and Public Works is going to work with them on what they actually look for on reviews, and we're going to work with planning on what inspections look like and what they expect for that. So it's kind of an all-rounded, very cool experience that we're going to work with them. I think it's very cool. I think this is step one. We hope that this is very successful and we're able to work with them a lot in the future. Like I said, we have 70 parks. We have unlimited amount they're never going to run out of projects. We can always find them something to do within the scope of parks. And as you can see, we're probably somewhere around a quarter of the expense what we would normally see for this, because we're not paying for the design. We're not paying for contractors to come in there and work. This is a real life work experience for them. So we're pretty excited about that. And if you want to talk about the schedule, Brian, look from us?
Yeah, I mean, just the main target dates kind of coincide with our academic calendar. So we start in August. We have kind of milestones in terms of like getting design in front of our clients pretty quick. And then, like I said, sort of by fall break or before fall break, we're outside working. And then sort of the only time we take off is spring break. I haven't been able to find a way to keep students here for spring break yet. But other than that, we're pretty much there. So it's like a class where they have to be there. So it's not kind of typical contractors that say they're going to be there Wednesday at like 9 a.m. Like they have to be there. So we're typically done by the kind of end of April, and then we like to like budget a couple weeks to have an open house and engage with our customers or clients to have some sort of event for them to show the new building. So haven't missed it yet. We have to really control elements of the project to make sure that we're able to do that, like working at heights and just different scales and things like that. So we've kind of dialed in where our sweet spot is to accommodate like those dates. We always feel pretty good about them now.
And our initial idea where to fund this out of, we do have this as fit within the master plan of Reese Park. So, and as you know, we have some extra funding inside Norman Forward. So we would propose to take this from the Norman Forward funding since it does fit within the scope of the master plan.
Councilman Palachi.
Yeah, I mean, this is Ward 7 and I'm Ward 7, so I love it. I'm at this park all the time, and my kids have been waiting for this area to be kind of revamped and redone. So that's super exciting for me. And also I had a question of, just because I'm a teacher, so you said on the outdoor classrooms, and you mentioned a grant. Like if I wanted to tell a Ward 7 school like Madison actually may already have one. What if I wanted to tell Reagan Elementary about this? Like how would they find out about the grant to maybe work with y'all?
So what we're not great at is raising money. I do tell people that. So normally people will come to us. The grants that we work for have been that schools have already had their own grants in place when we showed up, and then they approached us. But if it's something that like we could help do some grant writing, like we would be all in for helping assemble the grant. We just don't really like apply
I didn't know
ourselves.
if maybe you knew of a certain one out there.
Yeah, I could ask, which like I can't remember. It's been a few years. I can't remember exactly where some of that money all came from, but yeah.
I was just curious.
I know that like it seemed like the schools for a few years they were having not a very hard time finding money for those types of projects.
That would be amazing. Thank you.
Yeah.
Councilmember Grant.
Yeah, I'm in favor of this moving forward. I just had a question about the Norman Forward funds. So what are we shifting around to do the 75-80K here?
There's nothing that we're shifting it around. By our calculations, at minimum, there's going to be about $11 million remainder at the end of that's excess funding, so that we're just taking a portion of that $11 million and using for this. We're also going to be asking at a certain point probably to grab several $100,000 to go along with the playground construction, because we do think it's going to be $600,000. We do have a certain match that's inside there, and also we want to exceed the scope of that, because to build a playground that we think that's deserving of this park and of the expectations, it's gonna, probably all in, probably about $1 million project just for that playground area.
Okay. Yeah, that was just my question about the Norman Forward funds.
Councilor Bruce.
You're really saving money. You're really saving money. Probably 50 to 75% by using university students as design build. So I applaud Brian, you and you for thinking about this, and you'd think we'd have a lot more of this for the university here with other areas. So whatever you're doing and however this happens, it's great. I appreciate it.
We're dipping our toes in. We think that this could be a long relationship. And the thing I'm excited about is that you're getting students that are very hungry on the front end. So hopefully we'll get a very cool design and a very cool end product from this, that it's unique and something you don't usually see with our shelters or other things that hopefully they'll do in the future.
Councilmember Dixon.
I'm sorry, Brian, I didn't catch your last name earlier.
Bloom, Bloom.
Thank you for coming and not having Professor Reyes, because if he was here, I'd say no to this.
Great, I'll let him know.
I was a part of the first iteration of this way back in the ancient days with when Ken Robson and Doug Cransberry and Richard Ryan were doing this.
Cool.
I'll say it's fantastic. Every student learns a ton. The architecture students get to, like, they have to build what they draw, which is, you know, sorry, I was a construction science guy, so I'm gonna throw shade on architects. But the construction science guys, like, they haven't ever and don't like build things with their hands.
Right.
So it's great for them. At least whenever I was doing it, like extremely supervised. It's not like the students are just getting sent out there and then somebody picks them up, you know, or they just come back to class. Like, it's good quality construction. It's great, and I love this partnership, 100%.
Cool, thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Okay, Councilmember Dansbury.
So like I said, we do have, it's not in too good a shape right now thanks to the storm, but the MSTAT building on Robinson was built for the hospital by this same exact group from OU and everything also, and everything. I found that out when we've been going through the process of it being demolished and everything like that, but that's who designed that. So we do have works from OU around town
Yeah.
that we probably don't even know about and everything for sure.
Yeah, there was a guy named Bill Bauman who was doing this decades ago too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Michelle.
Did you know that name?
Yeah, I had it in the class.
Okay.
Let's see, and you said, so we supply the material and supplies the material.
So we give them they have a $75,000 budget, so they'll submit to us what their budget is at a certain point, and it'd be kind of like a direct pay system. They'll go out there and purchase on our behalf, and then we would pay the bills.
And you said it fits with the Reese Park master plan and the new kid space layout. And then, sure, I think it was, and then wouldn't be basically when we have events, Juneteenth, July 4th, Earth Day, all those stuff. It's not gonna, I guess, you want it to be in a place that's usable, but not in a place that prevents those events or gets interference.
Correct. Yeah, it's not going to be a whole lot of difference from. I would imagine the playground's probably more centered into that area. The shelter will coincide with that. So then, if you look at the dates, it coincides with our T-set build. We imagine that. We're trying to go through the exact same process we did last time with KidSpace. So you would see a community build probably early spring sometime next year. And as you can see, this would coincide pretty close to that springtime where we would do that community build and hopefully be all done around the same time. And we can have some crazy party with confetti cannons and all that good stuff to celebrate everything.
Well, I'm definitely in support of the partnership as well, and hope we can do more of it for sure. And would just note as well with the Norman Forward surplus funds that you mentioned, there are additional phases of Reeves Park that need to be completed at some point. There's an addition to the Adult Wellness Center that has been discussed, addition to the YFAC. There's lots of things that we had to maybe scale back a little bit in the beginning and have completed most of the projects now. And so that surplus, there's a lot of different things that can definitely go to, I think, getting the kid space done. And it is, even though it is, you know, wearing out, it is, I think, still the busiest playground in Norman. Every time I drive by there, there's people there. And city staff for years now has been doing everything they can to keep it functional. But it is, over 7 years old, and wood pillars in the ground for that long, pretty amazing. So it's expensive to continue to maintain at its current age and condition. So, but everybody loves it. I love it, and I'm looking forward to being able to rebuild it with a community build, and I think this is a pretty cool addition to have with it. So, Councilmember Grant.
Would we see in mid-September the concept, design, and cost estimate? Will you be back again?
We can bring it back to you if that's for sure. We were talking about bringing it to park board, but we would love to come back to it and share that with
You could
you
throw it
guys
in a
at some point.
committee as just like an update.
Yes, ma'am.
In council, something you might wish to consider, a lot of times when we have an amazing project, we will anchor it with a brass plaque to kind of memorialize who participated in. I think partnership like this, we need to recognize the relationship, give those young architects and contractors a thing that they'll be able to show their kids and grandkids that that's one of the things they did. I think it's not a budget issue one way or the other, but I think this may be worthy of that kind of recognition.
Any other comments, questions for staff? Brian? Okay. Thank you, Brian, for being here. Appreciate it.
Thank
Looking forward to seeing it progress over the school year.
Likewise, thank you guys for the time.
Thank you. Okay, item number 2 is a discussion regarding an updated fire station study to perform preliminary design services and a needs assessment for various fire department facilities. And we have fire department admin here to lead this discussion. And this is related to the matrix study that was done for both police and fire departments, really assessing all the city's public safety needs and things like that, so.
I mean,
Yep, technical.
Yay.
Always.
And Chef and Dresser.
all right, good evening,
King
council.
here, yeah.
Good evening. Good to be back with you this evening. As you recall, several months ago, we came before you to get permission to do these studies. You granted that to us, and we're thankful for that, and we're thankful for Mr. Paul finding the money to help execute these contracts. Tonight, I have Deputy Chief Chesser, Assistant Chief Smith, Assistant Chief Roney, Training Chief Mitchell here to help with this presentation. We tried to limit it as much as we could, not to get too far into the weeds, but there'll be parts where they're subject matter experts, and we'll let them talk about it. This is the overview of the public safety study that was presented to you back in 2025. 78 personnel, high priority need right now. We'll get into why that is as we continue through this study. Kind of give you a little history here of the last 3 stations that were built. Fire Station 7, 2001, population of Norman at the time, and that's our total call volume at that time. We progressed forward to 2011, population, total call volume, an increase of 44% from the last time we built that fire station, Fire Station 7. 2013, Fire Station 9 was built. You can see our population barely increased, call volume increased a little bit. Fast forward to today, Fire Station 9 is the last fire station we built. There's our population, there's our total call volume, and we've had a little over a 61% increase in our total call volume since Station 9 came online. Fire Station 7 was a bond issue. The station was built out of capital funds from that. No people were hired. I was at Fire Station 1, the last shift. We had 2 engines there. Engine 12 left Fire Station 1 and it parked in Station 7 and it was rebranded Station 7. So that's how the personnel came about for Fire Station 7. 8 and 9 were part of Public Safety Sales Tax 1. So that was passed by the voters. We hired 30 firefighters, 15 per station. We hired them sometime, 2011, before 2011, and then before 2013, got them trained, got them ready to go. When those stations were finished, we put them in there and off we went. So that gives you a little history of the last 3 stations and then kind of where we are today population-wise and call volume-wise. Next. So the first project we'll talk about here is part of Public Safety Sales Tax 2. This funding, already approved by the voters, and the funding will be there as soon as finance and the city manager tell us to move forward. We'll move forward with relocating this fire station. We thought some time ago that the Clear Bay and Highway 9 location would be a good spot for this. Part of the reason we did this deployment review was the turnpike system. So we wanted to make sure that that was not gonna mess with our response or where we thought that station could go. The public safety study of 2025, Matrix believed that it could go there, and then we went back to them to make sure that it was still a good location for this fire station. They agree that it is. This is a 10-minute travel time. Keep in mind that when we see a heat map like this, that 10 minutes will shrink because that's just once you're on the road. Our goal is to get there, but you have to get the call, put your gear on, get in the truck, make sure you're taking the right equipment. So that's gonna shrink how fast we can get where we're going. So Clear Bay, Highway 9.
And Chief, I think
Yes, sir.
you might get into it, but going back to why relocating Fire Station 5 was even originally recommended,
Yeah.
with it being on the eastern edge of the city limits,
Correct.
basically, and
Yeah.
by moving it further west, expands its radius.
Go to the slide just before again, Chief. So our current Fire Station 5 is out here at 168th and Highway 9, right across from Little Axe High School. 180th is our border out there, so we're right next to the border. It's generally not good to have fire stations close to your borders. You want them in and then be able to respond out to your border. So it was decided to move this fire station, and the voters agreed. More of the population base of this district is in that area. So we can get to where a lot of your call volume is gonna be out there quicker. It also gets you at that Clear Bay entrance, so getting on the lake is very efficient from that location. Get you right out on Highway 9, so we can get farther in this way than we typically could, or where we are today at 168. Get a lot of high-speed car wrecks out here. So I think splitting the difference versus being way out there near the edge gets us on scene to those really high-speed events that we have out there sometimes.
Thank you. That's one of the main questions I've seen over the years about relocating that station.
That was proposed before this staff was in place, certainly, but the voters did agree, and we're here to execute when we're told to. All right, jump ahead, Chief. It's the intersection of Clear Bay and Highway 9, looking in from Highway 9. So that would be east, that would be west. The casino is that way, our current fire station would be that way. So this is heading in from Clear Bay. So this is looking down on that intersection now, and this is where we're proposing that the fire station would go. That land is governed by the Department of Interior. So we'd be dealing with the federal government in some capacity to either get a lease or to try to purchase that land from them. So anyway, that's how it sits on the ground there. We've also got Justin Myers here from Martinez Architecture, if you have any questions for them. But the station would sit just like this off of Clear Bay. That's important also. We want to come out on Clear Bay and not Highway 9. So we get out, we get our lights on, we approach the intersection. You can have flashers slowing that traffic down. Much safer to come out on a side road than a main highway like that. But that gives you an idea of how it would set there on that piece of ground. Any questions so far? So this would be a concept of what it looks like here. What we did here in designing this fire station and working with Martinez, we worked with a general floor plan, and this will save the city substantial dollars in the future, but a floor plan that we could utilize for this station and future fire stations, right? So it incorporates some growth, but it also, it meets the needs of today's fire service and what we see in fire stations today across the nation. You can see the outside of the station, we incorporate some wood features, rock features, really fits into a state park type of look there. But you'll see when we go through this presentation, same floor plan in there, but we changed the outside up to look more residential, or it could look however we want it to look depending on where that station is built in the community. Next, Chief. Now we're going to launch into Station 10. 2 locations were identified, 36th Avenue and Highway 9, and then 24th and Cedar Lane. So the public safety study report recommended immediate construction of this fire station back in 2025. As you know, growth in that state area is there now and projected to grow by 60% over the next decade. So we have call volume there now, and it's going to continue to grow. Certainly, as you see the Destin Landing development going down there, I believe you guys just approved another Bellatona phase here several council meetings ago. So we're seeing a lot of growth that way, east down Highway 9.
I believe you're looking right now, there's over 900 platted lots in that neighborhood between Destin's Landing, Bellatona. It's anticipated and already entitled for a lot of residential.
Not counting all the stuff on the Imhoff that's right across the street the other direction.
New target. Before we get too far down the road on the other ones, I do want to circle back just real quick on Fire Station 5. I asked the city manager for an updated list of the completed public safety sales tax capital projects and how much the final cost of them all have been. Because of Fire Station 5 being the last voter-approved project on the list, and it requiring to get all of them done before we could finance it. But the EOC, Emergency Operations Center, the citywide emergency communications system replacement, multiple fire apparatus, and other capital projects. But so we can all have that updated list of what has been spent so far that voters approved, and how Fire Station 5 fits into that public safety sales tax part 2.
We'll send that list out to the council on Monday. Should have it all assembled for you.
And that the rest of these projects that we're discussing would potentially be part of a public safety sales tax 3 initiative or something like that, potentially. But Fire Station 5 is part of the already existing public safety sales tax 2 that voters approved, and is the last project that was part of that project list. Councilmember Grant.
What do we have to finish before we can start Fire Station 5? Is there-
And I wanted to,
The last debt service payment will be made on the everything capital to date, and it'll pop up next to the top of the capital list. This conversation, we have some cost estimates. We had a general idea about where and a general idea about what, and we're narrowing in on, yep, that's the spot you want to build it, and here's what it is we will bring to you with the proposal to build with cost estimates from the architect. So we're just heading down that road to be able to execute and bring that Station 5 relocation as the voters had requested.
When was the last debt service payment?
Current fiscal year, Clint, last PSST, current fiscal year.
this section, okay.
So just, and the existing fire station crew would go to the new station?
Yes, so equipment and all, and as we did on Station 7, building the building is a fixed cost. We'll sign a contract, it'll be finite. We can figure out how to build things like that. It's the $1.5 million for the bodies you gotta put in it that last forever and ever. So that's the budget challenge we face. It's less capital and more of the personnel.
But the Fire Station 5 crew will be the right size for the new Fire Station 5? It's not
Correct.
anticipated you need more bodies?
Correct.
Okay.
And Emergency Operations Center, 10 million plus. Emergency Communications System was
15 million, I think, on all the radios and all that.
And then paying off those things were the primary reason, I guess you could say, for the financing to get Fire Station 5. But I guess those two things will be paid off, and then we can move forward. But just want to get that in there before we go on to the next ones, because they're require some additional thought, I think.
So just
Oh,
for
yeah,
the
Councilmember.
timeline, so Fire Station 5, we could potentially see movement on by next summer?
In budget development, if your priority is our priority, if we can figure out how to squeeze it into the 27-28 fiscal year budget, next year's budget, that's what will bring you.
Can we include what that debt debt payment is? Okay. And what that freeze up. Okay, and make sure, I guess, if we haven't already been in those conversations with the Department of the Interior or Congressman Cole. But I would want to definitely make that priority budget-wise? as
And we
far
can
as-
start that conversation tomorrow morning. And in the grand scheme of things, and I send you texts sometimes on the weekends about a boater or a skier that, and we launch the boats. It is good business from the state parks department's perspective to be that much closer to, it's either the busiest or the second busiest state park in Oklahoma. So we think they would see great value in this opportunity as well.
And it being a voter-approved project, we have an obligation to do it. And it's, I would easily say it's in the not best, it's in the worst condition of all the stations, so.
Now, whether or not, when we think about that federal land, obviously we'd love to buy it and own it fee title. It may come with a, 99-year land lease or a 49-year plus a 49-year option kind of a thing. It just depends on the federal government's appetite for fee title versus long-term lease. Depending on how we finance it, anything over 49 years is the same as ownership from a financing's perspective.
Definitely a budget priority for me, and we can have that discussion, but for sure is going into next year's. Okay, thank you, Chief.
All right. If there's not any more questions, we'll move on to Station 10 here. So this was covered as part of the Public Safety Study of 2025. Station 10 in the area of 36th and Highway 9 with another location identified at 24th Avenue and Cedar Lane. We'll go over the first location here, 10A. That's going to be at Highway 9 and 36th. You can see with a 5-minute travel time, you can really reach out east on Highway 9. That's very attractive to us, getting out on Highway 9. I mentioned the car wreck issues that we have out there. Also the brush fires that can really get out of control. Getting units out there as quickly as we can in the most efficient way that we can is very advantageous. You'll see Station 3's area here. You've got Station 9 here. 9 has trouble getting down there because there's no bridge from 36 from Highway 9 to Alameda. So they have to take longer routes and they really can't get down into this area. You see kind of a blank spot right here, and that was identified by Matrix as an issue. That's that Eagle Cliff Edition, Ward 7 area. So heat maps, they're accurate, but there can be different interpretations of those. So we want to continue to study this. We might do some live testing at some point, get PD to help us actually get rigs running hot for code 3 down there hot and see what time it takes. But that is an issue. We'll go to the next slide there and look at that. Now we've got 10B. So this is on over at 24th and Cedar Lane. You can see we're getting a lot of coverage here. We're also getting a lot of coverage down in Noble, right? So that's kind of the price you pay for getting more south down in there. You see a nice area here. You do have some overlap with 3. You do have some gap here, though, when you start butting up against 9's district. So there are advantages to that, but we would continue to study that. I might also add that I believe, looking around the room, I think then Council Member Holman, Ward 7, was at the same meeting I was at. We may be the only 2 in here that were in April of 2016 when Destin Landing was approved. The developer did agree to donate land for a fire station. I don't know how solid that is, but that was said that night. Let's go to the next slide and we'll talk about this more.
Mayor Rosenthal. that was
Yes,
one of the-
she absolutely did. Now, we kind of split the difference. We're not up here at the intersection of Highway 9 and 36, but when we come down, we think this is a good location. The advantage here is the city owns the land. This is at Saxon Park. This is going to be connected at some point, Saxon Park Drive out to 36th. The fire station can sit right here. You're right here with people working out, so any incidents people have, you're right there. You can get out on 36 down to Cedar Lane, cut across 77, you're at Eagle Cliff. Highway 9 is just to the north, east, west, or you can get right back in the core of the town. 3's area, 1's area, we have a lot of call volume. We think it's a good location. This gives you an idea of how it would set on that land there. And it also is the same floor plan as what we do at Station 5. So we think it's a solid floor plan, it's efficient, and it addresses the needs of the fire service today and allows for potential growth in the future. So that's how that would sit there. Chief, next slide. This is a concept of what it'd like there. So you can see we changed up a a little bit of that, how the outside looks there, some of the facade. More of a residential look, wildland urban interface, you still have some wood components there, but it's starting to get more of a residential feel versus that state park feel. So that's Station 10. Any questions about that? No funding identified yet, no people to put there.
And council, that one of the driving factors to bring us to tonight was a conversation by prior councils that when PSST 2 was approved, we had a really good idea about how much fire truck cost and how much a ladder truck cost. And all those costs are now out the window because all that equipment's doubled in 5 years. Council was considering personnel being funded one way and the capital needs, instead of trying to get that out of sales tax, maybe those are GO bond questions. And we do one and that GO bond gets paid off, and then we do another one and then that GO bond gets paid off. As opposed to trying to handle both the building and the personnel out of that sales tax, it just doesn't go very far when it's being, and the last thing we want to do is build a new building and not be able to put 15 fire personnel in it, so.
Very good. All right, let's press forward, Chief. Now we're going to get into the North Base area. We talked a little bit about this before. Several years ago, myself and Chief Mitchell sat on the board. I believe it was back in 2022. It was kind of a North Base redevelopment plan. We put this back into this study because one of the questions that came up while we were looking at a deployment review for the whole department was, where can the fire administration be? Does it need to continue to be with the fire department? It could be combined in a police kind of public safety facility, right? So we looked at this. We thought, well, let's throw that before matrix and let's look at where, if the fire admin could be moved, where could it be moved? So this looks at adding that there along with other of our divisions and kind of a reimagining that as the plan dictated back in 2022. Okay, so let's go to the next slide. So this is an overview. Existing Fire Station 7 off Goddard. The airport would be just above us here. You can see that. 77 is out here. The YMCA would be back down here, way down here. OU owns this land here, so this is the old Flight Academy. That plan talked about the city purchasing this land and a sliver of land around the whole North Base area. It was also talked about where our current fire burn tower training facility, it sits right down in here. So this is the wash bay facility. This is the current laydown yard. I believe Streets has that. We're kind of sitting down here and we're sort of in the way now, the way this is all configured. So it was talked about switching land with them and we could put a new burn tower here. It is in need of replacement. So we could go there. A proposed fleet storage facility and training area. That has been, we've teed that up a few times and we have not been able to get that building built through the years. But this would be storage for our reserve apparatus, keeping them out of the weather, and also getting some equipment out of the Station 7 truck bay room. It's very crowded in there, so a boat, a pulling unit, several units, as well as several reserve engines could be stored here. And then dirty classrooms here, so classrooms that you could still do training evolutions in without messing up our good training room, which is right here. So that building could be put right here. You've got the new burn tower right here, and then this is a proposed prevention and training facility. So that's where our station now sits today, and these buildings would be added with a land swap right here. Chief, let's go to the next slide. So that's a concept of what it would look like. This exists right here today to this point right here. This is our current training room right here. Truck room, Station 7 on this side. So this would be the proposed prevention and training center. Now, several slides from now, when we start talking about Station 1, you'll see our admin connected with Station 1. But if for some reason we had to reduce that footprint or that plan got altered, you can add a third story right here and fire admin can go there. It was identified in the study that your fire admin needs to be with the fire department. It needs to be connected to a fire station. We have that currently programmed with our Fire Station 1. It's been that way since 1894. It's worked well for us. It's working well today. There is an argument, though, that it does work equally as good or better up here at our training center, right? With our full admin, our prevention, and our training divisions. We have multiple companies coming in there daily for training, and we can be right there with that. So I'm very comfortable if our admin were to be here, but we have it currently with our Fire Station 1 as it is today at our location at 415 East Main since 1963. We've been there with our fire station.
That works with the airport.
Yes, it should.
All
Yeah,
that
there shouldn't be an
stuff.
issue.
And then with a place for prevention, we're not really using the investigation center for the fire
That is-
department side anymore.
That is correct.
And so this would be a permanent new home for
That's right.
prevention investigation.
Several years ago, it was identified that a more efficient place for our prevention would be back with the fire department as well. We think it's better that way. Communications are better. Cohesiveness is better. So they've moved out of the NIC area, and we made a place for them currently at our Fire Station 8. So it's kind of a makeshift place for them. Our fire marshal is with us at 415 East Main. But this facility would allow them to all be together. So our weekly inspectors would be there, as well as our 24-hour shift inspector. So you'd have someone spending the night at that location as well. But your fire marshal would be in this building. They would occupy the second floor, and then our training division would occupy the first floor.
And on that note, will the investigation center be part of these facilities? Future of that, if we're not using it for fire department anymore?
We'll be bringing you
It's a
that
big place.
contract here in the next couple of meetings, and we can absolutely share that with the consultants to include that thought in the study.
Councilmember Gansberry?
As a person that likes training, I'm all in favor for this idea and concept for one. I mean, as we're asked, we're talking about shortages of people all the time in the fire. And I always think that it's best to invest in who you have. Definitely know that way somebody doesn't come poach them from you and stuff. And I think this would offer us the top of the line training opportunities for our men and women that are out there with the latest and greatest. I'd also like to see us, if we haven't already, being that close now to the, airport and stuff, reach out and offer assistance on training on airport property and everything like that for the big, more flights that come into there and everything else. We might have stuff that this needs to be able to handle as well there.
I'm gonna let Chief Mitchell
Yeah.
address that and the benefits of getting an upgraded facility.
Jesse Mitchell, appreciate y'all's time. So currently we do conduct airport training once a month.
Okay.
Today, in fact, I completed getting a schedule for the next 3 months. So we have a really good relationship with Derek Malone out there and Lance Lampkin. They're part of the OU Emergency Operations Group, and so we try to get together once a month. The last session we actually conducted in the training center. With that being said, our current training center, when we conduct recruit academies and our academies internally, we're breaking a bunch of OSHA violations, a bunch of NFPA violations. We store our bunker gear in the classroom, which is a great risk for cancer. And so this plan right here that was identified, Martinez kind of drafted up. They put a dirty classroom out back. On the back side of that structure, on a slide before, it showed like an apparatus storage location. So when normally when our people go in to take their vehicle into the shop, having a storage location right there where you just grab the reserve unit, it's already on North Base. It's efficient. So one of the things that we've been looking at is trying to figure out of how do we reduce the liability for the city. There are no showers for male or female in the training room. There's a bathroom and a foyer, and that is it. So this would actually fix a lot of those issues, but more importantly, we host training not just for Norman Fire Department. Here coming in October, we're actually going to host training for Fleet. So they'll host a emergency vehicle technician conference. They'll bring in people from all over the United States to this conference. We'll host it for them. We'll proctor the exam and facilitate that. And so we were looking at ways to reduce liability for the city and also be efficient and be in line with the 2022 feasibility study that was done for North Base. And so they took that North Base feasibility study, and then they expanded from what that study suggested, and then Martinez came in and drew all these plans that would fix the needs for us as a city.
I can see it also that, those recruits from other areas might decide that one day that's cheaper just to get a smaller plane and fly all the recruits in and land right next to you also, and have them come over there for training, and stuff also.
Thank you, Councilman. Any other questions? So that's a concept there, and like I said, if the admin does not work, we're proposing it today, which you'll see in just a minute here. It can be added right here. And Matrix does support that. They almost like that better, quite frankly, but let's continue on. All right, now we do get to Station 1. There were 4 locations that were identified. 2 really made it to the end as viable. And that's where we currently sit today. And that's also at West Main and Santa Fe. So that's where we sit today is location 1, and then 1C will be referred to as the Santa Fe and Main location. Let's go to that next slide, Chief. Administration. I'm gonna let Chief Smith talk about this. This came right from the deployment review talking about administration.
Hi, I'm Jason Smith, Assistant Fire Chief in charge of administration. Like Chief King said, the study identified that fire service organizations are more effective when admin and support staff are intermingled with the operations or the field people. By locating us all together, there are several advantages such as real-time discussions, real-time decision-making, communication is better, so on and so forth. And we're talking about, the study identified two types of I don't want to call it a campus, but one of them was a fire station that was integrated with the admin. And that's what we currently have now and have had since we started. And it's a concept that works great and it's wonderful. And you'll see here in just a moment on these slides that is going to be presented here. If we need to scale down what you'll see on Station 1, then it would end up being what he's talking about as a campus-wide type concept. And that's where you have your prevention, your training, and your administrative. So essentially 40-hour work week employees at the station with your field personnel. This is the trend that we're seeing nationwide, and it was even mentioned in our architectural meeting that when they're drawing plans for fire stations, that these two concepts are the ones that people are going with.
So your downtown headquarters station is probably the most popular. City of Edmond, though, recently did what I was talking about at Station 7, more of a campus approach. So it has been done in the metro, but everywhere else it's going to be with your downtown headquarters station. That's what we have here now. Chief, let's go to that next slide. So deployment analysis, this is where we sit today. This is going to be 5-minute road time. Keep in mind that shrinks when you have to process the call at your station and then get your proper gear on and get the right equipment. But as Matrix points out in the current deployment review, that it's hard to argue that it doesn't work when it's been working. It works here at this location, right? So that's what it looks like. Those are your heat maps. They support having it where it currently is.
As the chief described, when he was at Station 1 and we built Station 7, we just took half the bodies and half the equipment and Station 7 was up.
Yeah.
Now we're back to the call volume where, we need another engine or another engine company at Station 1 just to keep up with the call volume. So.
Appreciate your kind words on that video too, Mayor. That station is averaging so far this year 605 calls a month. So according to our research, it's right there, maybe the busiest in the state of Oklahoma, quite possibly. All right, let's go to the next slide. All right, this is Santa Fe and Maine. matrix identified that the differences are not substantial, right? If we move it here versus where it currently is today, not substantial. And it provides other things, enhanced visibility, community presence, integration with future redevelopment initiatives, highly visible public safety facility that incorporates emergency response operations, administration functions. It offers advantages that our current location does not. So it'd be a lot more visible. It could really be a centerpiece in downtown as you look to revitalize that possibly, but it would be a nice centerpiece, I believe. It does, there were kind of gaps down in this area where we have high call volume. It gets us closer to that too, shrinks some of those gaps. You can see the red though, where it opens up some gaps that don't exist today. So that's just part of the game we play when we build fire stations. Yes, ma'am.
When you say West Main and Santa Fe downtown, are we talking, because I'm looking at it, and
Yeah.
I only see one green spot, the
Yeah.
rest is already built out. Is this,
We've got a slide here to address that.
Okay.
Just right here coming up, maybe the next one even. Yes.
yes, we're
So
looking
to
at the
build
same
this
thing.
fire station here, and it's still listed as Southwestern Bell, which I found interesting on the county's website. So AT&T Southwestern Bell has this parcel here. This is First Baptist Church. So both of these plots would need to be acquired by the city somehow. And then we would build that fire station. Some of the challenges, parking, and then acquiring the land. But it does work from a response perspective.
And then I'm just thinking about our downtown festivals and whatnot. Street closures wouldn't be possible with this location. Wouldn't?
You could keep.
There'll be a
Side
center lane.
streets, yeah, something has to stay
Yeah.
open, but you could potentially close Main Street. Santa Fe and the alleyway gotta stay open.
We've thought about that, and if the city, which I believe you are pushing forward with both east-west traffic on Main Street, which I think has worked great on Gray so far, but you'll have that center turn lane, which possibly you could keep open and then close the other outer lanes potentially, but keep us a fire lane going down there, and I think we can find a way to make it work.
So right now, on that same note, Norm Music Festival boundary ends at Santa Fe. The back of that stage faces Santa Fe, that intersection. That would still be intact.
Yeah, and
Because we
you know, the
close
challenges.
close it at Porter now, right on the front
Yeah.
of the other station.
And the challenges presented today, we have today, just at another location, right?
Yeah.
So we're responding in golf carts or our gators into that for medical calls. And if you have a fire call, we're just trying to make a way, right? So that's all gets approved through our fire marshal's office, and we make sure that access is still there, even though it's closed off.
But if that relocates from East Main to West Main, then that building, whatever we hold on and do with it, but that enables closures to go on the other side of Porter where previously we have not been able to do that.
That's one way to look at that, correct?
Okay.
Yeah,
Stash and all that,
Mhm.
that block.
that is correct. That's right in front of
Can't be
Fire
closed
Station
now.
1. Uh-huh.
Could be, yeah.
I'll just say from a Ward 4 perspective, I'm fine with either. I do think this one will be more challenging though. Not for the street closures, just for the land acquisition.
Those are, yeah, that was definitely brought up as challenges the city would face. Uh-huh.
And now you have the ability, if it were here, you can take Gray Street to go east if Main Street were closed for
Yeah.
an event, so.
There's things that like, oh, now we can do this, and then there's things you lose, right? And that was identified in the study that, you know, the rail, you're on the other side of the tracks. Well, we're on the other side of the tracks. So there's calls we couldn't get to, and you know, you just flip your problems essentially. So flip the challenges. But yeah, land acquisition is going to be part of the equation.
And then on the slide where you had like the heat map of where Station 1 is, and the
Go back
gaps
to that, chief.
that open up on the other side.
Uh-huh.
The red crosshatch, is that gaps or?
New gaps.
So yeah, this would be,
West-
if you moved it to Maine and Santa Fe, those are gaps that sort of that don't exist now. We're
Where are
shifting.
those locations that are in the red?
Griffin.
Well, we're out here, yeah, it'd be
It's 12th and Robinson.
Griffin and east of there. And there's already gaps, you know, you're not gonna get, it's not gonna all fit in any city, but you're just making a few more gaps. But we feel comfortable with that.
And do we have other fire stations imagined, or is this,
Yeah.
are these just the ones we're talking about today?
Well,
Oh, there's more,
they
okay.
are, yeah,
It would be the
we'll get to
whole
those in the slides here.
Do they help improve the gaps on that east side?
Not currently, no, we wouldn't be adding any more to the interior right now.
Yeah, I wish you could just imagine some folks on the east side. I feel like Ward 4 is still covered even if you're in the West Main area, but
Yeah. We
I
feel
can see some-
comfortable with the coverage if you did move it. And it's the same situation in Ward 5, moving Station 5. You know, there's people that that's part of when you move things or do things, there's those challenges, right? But we feel comfortable if you did move it, we can still get there in a appropriate amount of time.
well, it seems like a proposed 10, get 5 done, that covers southeast Norman.
That Saxon helps these side tremendously, giving them a straight shot to come up the back end of people on these sides.
So that might help with the gaps there.
Yeah, I think it'll help a lot with the gaps, because they can shoot on 20% right there, you know, come in the back
With-
side of everybody.
With the,
Yeah,
cl-
there was a gap in the first study, and I kind of mentioned this a while ago, and it's down in here.
That's what I remember you mentioning was
Yeah.
the
So
gap between 2 and 1.
yeah, so back in the early 70s when we moved Station 2 to its current location from near Lions Park there,
To West
Area.
Boyd Street.
yes, West Boyd, and then we moved Station 3 from the Duck Pond down to Constitution back in the early 2000s. And then Station 1 back in the early 60s moved from Gray to where it is now. We kind of made some holes down in here, which they were concerned about. Matrix is not as concerned about that, but you got higher density down here. So if you did move it, you're closing some of that gap that was identified in the first study. So that you gain some, you lose some, but it may be a higher density, higher call volume down there that we could be covering now.
I would add that when you factor in I don't know if the matrix study even looked at like the Griffin conceptual master plan that we've adopted. And, a couple thousand housing units that would be included, in a conceptual idea of what the Griffin Hospital campus could be developed out as in the future if the state ever figures out what they want to do.
Yeah.
And we want to be prepared for that, so that's what we've been trying to do. But I could see, based on the density of that proposed new neighborhood, that, a second downtown fire station in the future where we either build a new one now on this side of the tracks or we build a new one in the Griffin neighborhood in the future.
Yeah.
But at some point, we're gonna be building a new fire station or 2 in the central core area, I think, to support increased density, which is what the AIM plan is favors a lot, is making better use of existing space in the core area, empty lots, underutilized properties,
Yeah.
one-story buildings that people might want to develop or add on to.
Yeah.
And so I could absolutely see if we were to do Fire Station 1 relocation to this spot down the road
Yeah.
as part of the Griffin property, maybe as part of that whole TIF or whatever comes of that, putting in a second downtown station, but it being in that Griffin neighborhood even, maybe.
Well, Catherine would tell us that a fire station is infrastructure in all those conversations we've had in the courts.
So that's
And TIF dollars could be used to develop
Well,
such
and
infrastructure.
that would bring up the question with this too, is that the Center City TIF didn't, I don't think ever anticipated a new fire station being built in the Center City area, but it would be in the Center City form-based code and TIF
Yeah.
area, so.
When you look at that redevelopment in that center city area, I like having that ladder company that much closer to it as well. But you're right, you're taking away from something future out there. And if we were just gonna have one fire station in this whole area, Matrix seemed to frown on going any farther east with where we are today, right? You can go west some, but east is
With this one, you could
problematic.
do,
You could put that and then add another
fill
one at
those
some
gaps
point.
up there,
You certainly
so-
could.
And the thought of this site and not negatively impacting TIF, the church property's not on the tax roll, and the strip owned by Bell is pennies on the tax roll. So you could make it happen without a negative impact.
And
on
I guess a
future
question of if Center City TIF funds could be used to purchase property for Fire Station 1. one?
So those funds are pretty tied to the infrastructure analysis done by Johnson and Associates, so water lines, sewer lines, things like that. We've talked about amending the plan to allow for other things, and that's possible here as well. But I think as currently written, it does not contemplate purchasing land or constructing a fire station or something like that.
Something we could, is possible potentially. Okay. Councilor Grant, yeah.
Also a thought, so if you do move it to West Main and Santa Fe and you hold on to the Fire Station 1 location, that could be some, like a temporary incubator for something, and then we could revisit it, revamp it, and turn it back into a fire station.
Absolutely, and/or something to contemplate in the East Main TIF. What could you envision?
Okay, just some thoughts.
Councilor Kirby? Okay. But yeah, I think that's a good part of that discussion is, in the video of, about the Spotlight Fire Station 1, it wasn't a fire, but an alarm going off in one of the new apartment buildings in the center city area, so.
There were a lot of those.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking too, which was, yeah, anyway.
All right. If we're ready to move on, we'll move on. Chief? So this is how it would sit on that. You know, we would have parking for fire staff here. We've got up to anywhere from 13 to 15 people coming on duty every day. So you're at shift change, so you're parking a lot of cars at one time. So you can park those cars here. We still have some possibly up here and on the side here. If you couldn't acquire some of these properties and you had to kind of shrink the footprint, that's where we could look at putting the admin up at 7. That's why they were part of that study and what we could do here. But currently today, that's how it would sit on those properties. Chief, you want to go to the next slide?
That's specific to that specific, I mean, that footprint fits any downtown block or a corner of any downtown block, but this is based off this specific.
Yeah, and
if it were to move one block over, that could be a whole nother thing.
that could be, yes. Yep. But we did it right for that area right there. But yes, you could take this footprint and put it where you want it.
Because I know there's a few downtown locations where there's an empty lot or some vacant for sale one-story buildings on Gray Street, for example, so. But just, I know the radius and each block makes a difference when you.
Yeah.
Okay. Councilor Green?
I mean, we're also talking about building a parking garage on Gray, so I don't know how a fan of parking garage and walking to work, but.
We could study that. I mean, we talked about different options, you know, parking our people, staging them and taking a bus to work. It kind of gets, logistically, it becomes more challenging, but if you had one close enough where they could walk, we could look at that.
The Gray Street parking lot is envisioned as being a parking garage, so it's not too far away.
Get some lenient captains that won't write them up for being late.
No, that's the other thing.
2 blocks, I don't know.
Yeah, I could actually park right here.
So these are some concepts here of it sitting right there, and tried to kind of give it some of that old downtown look to kind of fit in with current buildings down there. First floor, going to be your truck room and your maintenance for that and entry point for the public. Second floor is going to be your firefighter living quarters, their offices, shift commanders will be up there where they train. All of that would be on the second floor. And then your fire administration would be on the third floor. So all the staff, all the support staff would be on that third floor. So it's neat, it's tidy. I think it works well there. I think it would add to our downtown area. I think it would look good.
Councilor Steele?
So if fire administration did go on the north campus, would this just be a 2-story, or would you still have the 3rd story for something else?
Yeah, I mean, we would probably look at going back to 2, and if you had to squeeze it in a little bit, we could look at that, and then that might, well, we're not gonna have as many people coming here every day, so your parking situation is lessened. Also, you can knock the 3rd floor off. The mayor brought this up in our first meeting several months ago. Station 2 was on the rebuild in the public safety study. It's lived its life. You could also use this 2-story version of this to rebuild Station 2 where it currently is. So we could save money in the future by using the same floor plan.
Oh, perfect.
And like Station 2, we would insist on a 3-story pole to be able to slide down, just
Yep.
because it's what
This does
firefighters
have
like
two
to do.
poles, this little corridor right here going up and down is a pole.
It would.
They have two poles in it.
Fire Station 2, for those that don't know, is the only one that has a pole and is a 2-story building currently that we have in Norman, so.
Yep.
But it has some issues that have been pointed out that would either replacing it or some pretty significant renovations of it.
Anybody on staff fell down that pole before?
2 in the morning.
And the Firehouse Arts
You let
Center.
go too early.
Sometimes you miss.
Yeah, the Firehouse Arts Center still has the original pole from when it was original Fire Station 2. So.
That's right. So that's what it looks like if it were to be sitting there.
Yeah, I like it a lot. I would maybe a little bit more historic on the think Ghostbusters firehouse.
We can tinker with the aesthetics for sure.
So yeah, definitely more. Make it look like it's 150 years old or something like that.
Justin, I think we can do that, right?
Got to dirty it up a little bit.
Yeah. But no, I think it would be really neat to do that. Obviously, if it's able to increase coverage and reduce response times in central Norman, but also, a building like that, a public building with a fire department, admin, and Fire Station 1 in the middle of downtown would be, I think, pretty significant and a good thing for businesses, and people working there would go eat lunch probably and maybe at Scratch or wherever. So
That's some of the things Matrix is pointing out. Like
Yeah.
there's benefits there that, we don't have currently.
And you said this works with a two-way Main Street
It does.
as well, so,
Sure.
okay.
All right, let's go to the next slide, Chief. Now we move to 11, Station 11. Tecumseh and 24th or Franklin and 24th were identified by Matrix. I believe they believe, and we believe certainly that Tecumseh and 24th is the best location for that. It does mesh nicely with stations 1, 7, and 9 to the south. If you get it up on Franklin, there's our border, Moore and Oklahoma City out here. We're providing them coverage that we don't need to be doing. So closes those gaps. You're gonna have little gaps no matter what you do, and we're comfortable with that, but we're getting a big chunk of that covered at that location. Any questions on Station 11?
Councilmember Curry?
Yes, sir.
Right there at 24th and Franklin, that actually goes all the way out to Indian Hills, does it not? And then hook all the way back down Indian Hills and out, and isn't that where they're about to try to stick a turnpike on us? So more than likely that east-west is gonna be super developed like they did in Edmond, so will you still be able to cover all that expansion from the turnpike coming in if it's down at Tecumseh?
We think so, and that was part of what Matrix was commissioned to do, to identify the best location, knowing that the turnpike, where it's gonna be. So they feel like that's the best place. Tecumseh still goes out quite a ways, and you can shoot up to Franklin, shoot up to Indian Hills if you need to. Get on the turnpike right up here if we need to, and shoot out east or west from that location. We think it does work, and we'll address that future development.
Yeah, because the school, the guy was talking about before, that they did the parks construction on right there, just on the northeast corner of 24th and Franklin. So they don't have no protection right now.
Yeah. They would be inside though of our, they have nothing now, but if we built it at Tecumseh, that's still within our radius where we feel comfortable providing that protection. All right, let's go to that next slide. Station 12. So this was, we identified 108th and Franklin area. Had some rather big fires out there in the last couple of years. A lot of development going on, a lot of big houses going on up there. We have a hard time getting there. It's kind of that reverse L area, that part in the lake area there. They agree with us. It is in a farther timeline. So we can be flexible with the location, but basically Matrix is telling us, let's see how that all develops out there, what happens, and then you can adjust. But the 108th and Franklin area does work if you had to make a decision today. But that is not, we don't have it programmed, nor are we asking for it anytime immediately. Chief? Interchanges. I'm gonna have Chief Chesser talk about that. Part of what they were commissioned to do was identify, now that we know where these turnpikes are going, how does it affect where we're looking at putting fire stations, and how do we need to access it? Like, what is needed from a public safety perspective? Chief?
Joel Chester, Deputy Chief. So as Chief King has showed y'all stations 11, station 12 proposed areas. One of the things that I know that's been talking about, and again, I'm not here for a turnpike or against a turnpike. I'm here for a voice for public safety. That's about a 7-mile stretch. What I see a lot of times happen on the Turner Turnpike, there's large stretches of highway, and you see on the news all the time, you see the semi wrecks, you see the bad car wrecks and stuff. If there's not an interchange location on there, we could have some pretty significant delayed responses. The other thing that happens is there'll probably be a lot of hazardous materials that are gonna be transported down the turnpike. When you have a hazardous materials incident, those don't usually stay in one location. They migrate off and they affect the surrounding community and the citizens there. So those are some concerns from a public safety standpoint, a couple interchanges that would be split that up so we could access it from Station 6, as Chief King talked about the placement of Station 11, and then even that Station 12 coming in from the east side there. So as it is now, we got Fire Station number 6 out there, they're on Alameda, they would have to go probably down 72nd or 60th down there, jump down on 9 and get on and come back in. When you're dealing with a fire on a semi that has hazardous materials, minutes are very, very valuable. When you're dealing with somebody that's trapped in a car and we need to get the jaws of life on them and get ALS, advanced life support on them, minutes count. And so when we're looking at this from a public safety standpoint, we would appreciate the consideration of those interchanges being thoughtfully placed in there to allow access not only for fire, for police, for MSTAT. So that's where we're coming from, because it's not only visitors that are going to be going down that turnpike, it is citizens in Norman that will be traveling down that turnpike. And our mission statement is the preservation of life and property for the citizens. And so that would be aligned with our mission and goals.
So they identified Highway 9, Alameda, Tecumseh. As the chief said, access is paramount. The one at Highway 9, you would have a future Station 10 and 5 being able to access that at 9. If you had one at Alameda, you've got Station 9 there today and Station 6 coming in from the east that can access it. In the future, you've got 11 that can get on at Tecumseh potentially, and then a 12 coming in. You also have our rescue at Fire Station 7, which is on the airport. They're coming out, they're getting on 77, they're going to Tecumseh, they could get on it. Not only could it be used, we're talking about things that happen on it, but us utilizing it, right? So you've got these north companies coming in, trying to get down to the south, get down to the east to help with grass fires. We can utilize it to help improve our own response times. So as the chief said, that's a decision you all can make. We're here just to present you with the challenges of having interchanges or not having them, and we think it's a benefit to public safety across the board. So thank you for your consideration of that. Any questions?
Also, not related to public safety, and not on the south extension, but on the east-west connector.
Yeah.
Isn't there currently a interchange planned at like Highway 77 in the northeast? Or like 77 and Sooner?
Sooner, or 12 Sooner.
Yeah.
Sunny Lane. I think that's it.
We got on their website and there seemed to be several access points to it on the east-west, so.
Oh, and then further east, but
Yeah, okay.
Councilmember Grant.
So we are hearing from them on August 11th.
That is at your discretion. If you say you'd like to have them here, we'll have them here.
I still had some outstanding questions from retreat, which was how much are service calls for accidents like you would see on a turnpike? And then also verifying, statutorily speaking, why you would have to enter an agreement versus them just doing it
We'd be happy to work with you on that. When hazmat calls, whoever's hauling it's responsible, so we try to bill them as a city if it affected us.
Yeah, we were just made aware that
That's good that we can bill somebody.
people get on accidents, whether they're Norman citizens or traveling through. And since we didn't ask for it, we'll incur the cost of those on top of what we're already doing. So the thought was, who knows, maybe the county might help with their PSST to cover some things. I don't know. Does the county PSST help? Is there any crossover with working with the fire department?
There is. I'll let Chief Chester talk to that. We've benefited from that several times in the years.
There is, and it's usually in relation to equipment. So most of the time, they've helped us out with AED monitors. They've helped us out with many other types of equipment that we have. So there is, it's usually tied to equipment. So, but as
Smaller equipment.
Smaller equipment. It's usually not tied to any services that we provide. In the past, we've been examining, there's third-party billing companies out there that can look at billing for car wrecks and hazmat. We have had a hazmat incident in Paul's Valley where we went outside of our community and we recovered, I believe, $10,000, $11,000 of our materials that we used for them. So we do have the ability to get back on materials if we do respond in those instances on that, so.
It's supposed to be some sort of automatic aid agreement that you could look to enter into with Turnpike Authority or county or whatever, I don't know.
I was just thinking about how do we make up those costs,
Yeah.
so.
Now, some of the equipment that they're talking about are some specialized monitors for EMS, and they're around $50,000 each. We have 3 of them, and because we have those 3, that was instrumental in us being able to introduce advanced life support protocols in East Norman.
That's been huge. That's been life-saving and life-changing for the residents in East Norman. So you don't see that in many rural communities where they can get on scene, push what we call ALS drugs, and have a monitor there. So we've had a lot of success with that program out there.
Sounds good.
Councilmember Dixon?
Just to piggyback on the Councilmember Grant's thing, I've been talking to Chief King and the city manager for 3, 4, 5, 6 months about finding a way for us to like bill insurance for car wrecks, naming like Tesla fires, when things are like, and hazmat spills and all that. So I know we've been looking into that for a little bit.
And what I don't know if our computer-aided dispatch can help us identify, we respond to calls on I-35. We don't do traffic enforcement, but if something bad happens on I-35, we're there usually first. If there's something on Highway 9, we're there. I don't know if we track how many of those accidents are Norman residents versus people just happen to be on that thoroughfare making their way to other parts. But it would be interesting to see what that insurance impact would be on Norman residents versus, should we be sending a bill to somebody who came up here from Texas and we incurred a big expense because we were responding to their emergency. So
We can revisit that anytime you're ready, sir.
Yes.
Anything we can recoup for stuff like that?
All right, let's move on to our next slide. I'm gonna let Chief Chester handle this. So this is
Councilman Kirby.
I'm sorry.
I want to know if y'all have actually contacted the OTA and asked them, since they are on bonds and apparently have endless pockets, have they offered to put their own fire station or own emergency service station anywhere along the turnpike? I mean, because you ask 98% of the people in Ward 5, they're going to tell you they don't want any one of them on and off ramps. And 11 miles, how often do y'all travel 11 miles right now to get to an emergency response? Because we haven't moved Fire Station 5, or we haven't built Fire Station 10, or we don't have Fire Station 11 or whatnot. How many times do y'all right now drive 12 miles just to get to residents in Ward 5 that have been here for 5 generations, and we have ignored them? I know for a fact they're saying it won't take any more houses at Tecumseh. I've noticed that the city has put a shed in front of the well at Tecumseh right around the 5300 area. I'm guessing that's probably starting a plug on it or something, because that's kind of the route of the turnpike. I don't know what you're doing at that well particularly, but.
Chlorine and ammonia.
Okay, so it's not for the turnpike. So once again, 50, 60 miles out there on Turner Turnpike. I-35 and Highway 9 are, they're not paid highways. They have people out of state all the time, but 11 miles ain't that far. Even if you shoot from Alameda to Highway 9, that's 2 miles. A mile over 2 miles, double back, you got 13 miles max. And to not put them on ramps, you don't take somebody's house at Tecumseh, because the Turnpike came on the other day and said, oh, it's not gonna take nobody's house. The lady that sits right next to my wife at work, if they put that, will lose her house. If they put one at Alameda, the man who just lost his house in a tornado and got it rebuilt will lose his house. So, I mean, I think we need to stay out of business with the mafia, and we darn sure don't need to be negotiating with the Turnpike, especially on and off ramps. If they want them, let them build them, and let them see what happens with Ward 5 residents and lawsuits.
That's certainly a discussion for council. I'll tell you that in my career here, of 30 years plus now, if we just use I-35 as an example with no entry onto it, if we had to go that amount of time, I can't imagine how many more deaths I've seen in my career not being able to get on I-35 in a reasonable amount of time. So we're just bringing that to you to consider as far as what you decide to do. You know, hey, we're going to do the best job we can with whatever the finished product is. But from our experience, it's critical to have access on that high-speed stuff.
Councilmember Bruce.
Chief, I really don't know this answer, but who's responsible for state level safety? What department, what agency is state level safety?
So it would depend on what type of safety. You've got Oklahoma Emergency Management that would kind of govern it. You've got the Forestry Department that sort of handles some firefighting aspects. You got Highway Patrol that would handle, law enforcement type aspects. So they kind of have multiple departments, from what I understand of your question there, that would handle types of state provided safety.
Now I'm just hypothetically, I'm thinking, well, if I'm responsible for state safety, I'm some office up there, and I say, okay, they got a turnpike coming in here, okay. And I understood, okay, we're not putting in an exit on north-south related to a population, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And the travel, and my question would be, okay, why not?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I would drive OTA to answer that question. Does that make sense?
It does.
I would be worried for the same reasons that you're worried for access if I had that position. Does that make sense?
It does.
So I'm looking at a driving function, for, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm driving OTA if I have that position.
Certainly, if they can provide that service, we feel better about it. It seems to be the pattern in the state of Oklahoma that when a state or federal highway comes through your community's responsible to deal with it. Now, as far as I do like the approach and the questions asked, is there a method to go get reimbursement? I love that, certainly. Is there a way we can partner with them or get into an agreement to help reduce costs for personnel and equipment that you're sending to that? There's models out there, back when Hall Park was Hall Park, we billed them for fire trucks that would respond. The people, the apparatus, so much per hour. I think that's a great question to ask, but there is no like fire stations, structural response rigs that I'm aware of that the state is going to provide to these locations. They'll do like rural firefighting, brush firefighting, and we've got that assistance in the past, but not this kind of stuff.
I understand related to equipment and all this. I'm thinking from a strategic standpoint, hey, we're putting in infrastructure within a state.
Mm-hmm.
And the governor, someone's gonna tap me related to safety and say, what are you doing to drive,
Yeah.
maintain, or increase?
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
It does.
And so I'm thinking, okay, I'm putting a major spur down north-south next to, a major city, third largest city. And if I understood, okay, we're not gonna put any in there, I'd say, well, that doesn't make sense from a safety standpoint. Does that make sense?
Sure.
Councilmember Bruce, that thought of a data-driven push, it would be interesting to see what kind of accident data on the whole turnpike system. Obviously, the number of trips per day is gonna help drive the number of accidents that they need to respond to. And we've seen the newer designs, they have higher speeds than the initial designs. And are those stats, one, do they have them? Two, do they do anything with them? Have they gone anywhere? Have they had that conversation? We are aware that they are in the whole $8 billion package. They're going back and they're adding interchanges on those long stretches where they didn't previously have access. So they have recognized there's a problem, and they're adding those at the turnpike's expense years after the fact.
Yeah, so think about if you're in this really, really, really small community, you don't have an access, but you have a fire department, you have a police department, you don't have access to the turnpike, one should be asking why not? From a state level, does that make sense?
All right, this next slide, City Manager Pyle asked me and my staff to work with our own GIS to plot. So these would be confirmed fires over the last few years. And the yellow is 23, it may be kind of hard to see where you're sitting. Orange is 24, red is 2025. So it kind of gives you an idea. And Chief, if you want to respond to anything, we fight a lot of fire here in Norman, as much as anybody, and it's spread out. You can see the density here. You can see where we're proposing Fire Station 10, Fire Station 11. We got 12 out here. There's that grass fire that blew out a year and a half or so ago. So 12 would be in that area. Here's a relocate of where we're saying to put 5. Here's where 5 is out here right now. So we're saying put it right here. So that kind of gives you an idea of we can meet our goals sometimes, and sometimes we can't. And every minute that goes by we're not there, it's damage that we can't reverse. So that's something for you to consider. Any questions? All right, let's get down to our favorite slide of all here. Costs.
Dang it, what?
All right, so we highlighted Station 5. That's monies that we already know where it's gonna come from, right? We program that, these will be all calendar years. So calendar year 2028 potentially. Station 10, we put calendar year 2028 as well. Public safety study said it needed to start immediately, and that was in 2025. So we got that at 28. There's the cost for those stations right there. Same floor plan, but you're dealing with more detainage, more concrete, depending on where the station is. So that's where you'll see some fluctuation in cost. We go out to calendar year 29, and that's where we proposed the moving of Station 1 of the administration and the prevention and training project that we showed you. That the fleet and storage facility is also part of our prevention and training Fire Station 7 redesign. We sort of figured that the capital funds and probably all funds at this point have been tapped pretty hard. So we're skipping to 2031 for Station 11. And then we've got Station 12, 2032. And I'm gonna ask Chief Roney to talk about the timelines that the actual study recommended.
I'll wait for the timelines.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry, I didn't see your hand.
Yeah, I'll hold. Chad Roney, Assistant Chief in Suppression on B shift, on C shift. So on page 35 of the study that was presented in February of 2025, it dictates what these timelines are. I apologize, I got the wrong one here. Give me just a second. There we are. So it talks about Station 10. It mentions it in FY 25 to 27. That's obviously a range. They were trying to be understanding of the fact that they understand you don't just immediately build a fire station and staff it. Also, there's the funding aspect of it as well. So that's why there's a 3-year range of time in there. So the replacement of Station 5, they had recommended FY 26 to 27. So we're a little bit behind on that, but again, waiting for the funding. And so that's in the process. That's part of what this presentation is about. And then they recommended immediately after the completion of Station 10 and its opening to start construction of Station 11. And they put time frame of FY 27 to FY 30, which aligns very well with what Chief King has even pushed out Station 11 beyond what their recommendation is. Again, being mindful of the funding aspect of that and just the facilitation of constructing a station and trying to fulfill the requirements of the study.
Yeah, and Martinez put escalators in here, so that's already figured in to those outlying years. And I want to go back to that first slide. You don't have to go back to it, but when we talked about Station 7, Station 8, and Station 9, we haven't added any suppression personnel since that time, right? And you can see our call volume has went up a lot. And I wanted to show you that because it's easy to ask, well, can you just kind of scrape together or kind of reprogram some of your people and open up a Station 10 or a Station 11? And we cannot. We have pushed it to the limit. The public safety study mentioned 78 people that are needed now, right, that are high priority. We have units in service, in frontline service today that aren't properly staffed, not even talking about fire stations. We talk about our ladder 2 with one driver on it. We talk about our rescue company, double staffed with a squad. And the squad's gone. There is no one to drive that rescue when we're talking about trying to get on the turnpikes or the highway. May not matter because we don't have anyone on it, right? I don't like that. I don't sleep well with that thought, okay? That's what's lifting the big heavy rigs off your family when it's crushed underneath a semi or doing the heavy rescue, okay? So we have a lot of vehicles that need attention before we even start talking about 10, right? So I just wanted to share that with you. There is nowhere to grab people. We need people.
Okay, so first question, these numbers, is that just for specifically, 10, 11, 12, is that just for the building or does that include startup equipment and costs as well?
It's not going to include land or any of the apparatus in the station.
Okay.
So add $2 million for things with wheels on it and probably another $1 million in land acquisition cost.
Sure. So just as like miscellaneous comment when it comes to Station 11, I do agree that the 11A location is probably much better, has much less gaps. As far as other comments, hopefully it's not too much of a rant here, but I cannot express enough how much I disagree with Station 11 being below Station 1 in administration. I did a ride along with Station 1 the other day. Thank you for facilitating that, by the way. And half of the calls Station 1 was going to was in Ward 6. And all but one call, they were heading east. Now, could have just been a coincidence for that day, I acknowledge it. But to say that we're gonna move a station west and increase response times to the east, which is where I saw that day most of the calls going to, doesn't just sit right with me. If you could also go back to the slide of proposed locations, or it was the one before the 1C aerial map, it was where the heat map is with the, yes. So on this one here, I think this is a great heat map. The problem I have with it is you have Station 11 in there already. So we have a heat map for a fire station we don't have currently. So really, when we're looking at current locations, everything in that northeast is currently blank with no service or outside of that 5-minute window.
That's correct.
And then just finally going back to that last slide with costs again, just to point out something else if you could. Understand funding is important, but when you tell me, hey, we could move a fire station for 26 million, or we could get a whole new one for about half of that, personally, I would rather get the whole new fire station and spend that extra 12.8 million on the staffing levels that you've been advocating for 10, 11, as well as the buildup for all these other stations that are running at the minimum staffing requirements.
We would be happy to fall into whatever schedule the council wanted us to.
I'm just expressing, my my personal opinion when it comes to 11 and where I think the funding would be better spent, 26 million compared to 13.5 plus a bunch of positions being filled.
Certainly a lot of development heading east on Tecumseh that we can't get to today.
Yeah, and then as far as like the intersection conversation, again, yeah, not to beat a dead horse, but it would also improve the response times on the turnpike if you had Station 11, which is gonna be pretty close to both of them. So, that's it.
Councilmember Graham?
So 78 bodies needed right now. With, how many are anticipated with these?
Yeah, so each time we open a fire station, that's 15 people right there. Our minimum staffing every day is 4, so that allows a relief factor. Usually have someone hurt or sick or off on vacation. So that helps address our minimum staffing at each station, each shift, 3 shifts of 5 people.
And as City Manager Powell alluded to, we have talked about a Go Bond series for buildings, which I think makes more sense. It's easier to get them built instead of waiting for them to be finished and then start another. And then we talked about PSST3 question being for bodies. So if we were thinking about doing PSST3, are we building in the bodies for these future stations?
Depending on the question council would consider, and one of the conversations councils had to do with the 1/8% public transportation sales tax measure that the voters approved as the county's 1/4% jail sales tax was matured. They paid off the jail. They were going to let 1/8 of it expire and ask the voters to keep the other 1/8 for ongoing jail maintenance. At that time, Mayor Bria Clark asked the voters if they would just leave the tax rate the same and let us use the 1/8 to cover the cost of the public transit system we had just inherited from the university. The voters said yes, thankfully, and that allowed us to be fare free. With the one transit question in the works in the 2027 calendar year, that 1/8% that the voters approved did indicate that if another funding source comes in and takes over, our 1/8 would go away at some point. Council could consider, hey voters, could we repurpose that, not increase the tax rate for personnel and public safety? Now, generically, we would say that's 1/8% is worth about $4 million. If we spend them all on firefighters, you could do about 3 fire stations worth, about 45 bodies. It'd be cutting it close out of 1/8% sales tax. Firefighters fully wrapped, pension, the whole shoot match, are about $100,000 a year.
So we're still paying for bodies out of the general fund and PSST?
Correct.
Potentially 3?
Yes, ma'am.
Huh, okay.
Another, if we went from 1/8 to 1/4, that gets you about $8 million a year. You could really start making a dent in the fire impact and on the police impact too. Because that same study said you need another 15 police officers immediately too.
What I was gonna say, the nimbleness of being able to ask the PSST3 question before a Go Bond question, as we figure out where things go, you could do that one first.
And now council has at least some real information about locations and the physical need. And then the body piece is a much easier question to answer. But when council decides there's another question to go before the voters, we want you to make sure you have all the information you need to design the question to satisfy your goals and objectives.
Okay, I guess maybe wait on the PSST3 until after the one
One
transit
transit, you'll know if that 1/8 becomes available.
available, yeah.
But facilities wise, our ability to jump on that phone call tomorrow with the federal government about the relocation to Station 5 and get those wheels moving. Work can be done while we position ourselves for that next question.
Councilmember Dixon?
I've got a few questions. I've kind of whittled them out as we've gone along. When we talk about the count number of calls, is that just like, if you send 2 apparatuses, does that count as 2 or does it just count as 1?
So when I refer to total call volume, it's every rolling apparatus for that calendar year.
Okay.
But when that apparatus rolls to go to that structure fire from station 2 to come in and help station 1, it's not there to run on the heart attack that someone's having. Our total, that's total call volume. Reported calls, right? That's number of reports written by one captain, which could include 4 or 5 units on that scene, is in the 21-ish, little over 21,000 for that same 2025 year.
Okay, thank you.
So I like the total call volume because it shows you how busy we are as a department.
And do we have a heat map of, like Councilmember Steele was talking about, Station 1, all the addresses Station 1 goes to, all the Station 3 goes to? Like, could you, is there a way to like provide that heat map?
Chief Smith, I'll let you discuss that.
Well, what you run into is what we were alluding to earlier, is that Station 1, they're all gonna have their regular destinations that they go to, but should one of those be out, then somebody from a different area has to come in.
But are
But
you
they'll show up in the
saying,
same address.
you're just wanting addresses, you're wanting a list of calls with addresses for a given amount of time?
Yeah, just to kind of see the heat
We
maps
can-
of
we
like
can-
where fire's going.
Yep, it'll be a bunch of little tiny dots, and a concentration of those dots.
You could probably do something pretty similar, the fire one that we showed you from 2023 to 2025, you could probably do something like that if we got with GIS and told them what we wanted and get something like that.
Yeah, I was gonna say, we just recently did that for another fire department. They just gave us raw data in an Excel sheet of calls and response times and addresses. We made this kind of interactive map that you can go click on each address and see which calls came and how many, and how long it took to get each one, so
I'll send you an
it's
Excel
pretty
spreadsheet
easy to
tomorrow.
do. Yeah. We'll send you a bill.
Thanks for
No.
volunteering.
But I will say real quick, I actually have to leave in just a couple minutes. Any questions that be related to the work that we did as the architect with them, helping them put the cost estimate together or anything?
Come back to Councilmember Dixon. Councilmember Kirby.
How did you pick the pricing to come up with these figures? I'm just curious because the particular hot water heater I know for sure has doubled from, well,
Yeah.
not even doubled. It went from $15,000 to $50,000 just in a matter of 5 years, and we have 2 of them sitting in our shelter. I
Yeah.
imagine it's going to be the same one
It's the same thing with
that
every
these firemen are
component.
going to need.
Yeah, every
So,
component in the building is.
and
gone
as
up
my
the
wife
same.
being a project estimator for
Yeah.
a bigger company in Norman, did you put this out to contract companies
We
and have
did,
them give you
yeah.
a rough
So,
estimate?
We took kind of a two-pronged approach. Fortunately, this is all we do is fire stations all over the place. And so we have a really good repository of recent bids at, 20, 30 stations in the last year of bids, really recent data. So we took that as a starting point, and then we contracted with a cost estimator in the area who we've worked with before on these types of facilities. They came up with their independent estimate, and we were kind of right in the same range. And then, of course, escalating for the future because the costs just keep.
But you took into effect, like if I went and bid a house today, tomorrow locks went on to the
Correct.
price on the wire
Correct.
unless I bought it today.
Yes, we escalated for the future bid times, yeah. And it's wild. I mean, a few years ago, it feels like $3 million was a lot to pay for a fire station. Now it just isn't that way anymore. So.
And then I'd like to stress with Kyle again, I'd rather see 11 to 12 built because, we're 78 behind right now. And I'm gonna stress with Daryl that if the highway patrol has 60 units paid for by the turnpike, then you would think the third largest city, as people keep calling us, could demand them to pay for 30 firemen or 45 firemen or 60 firemen, to where even if we built the fire station and they paid yearly for the staff like they do with the highway patrol, they're already running right over us. We should be pushing harder negotiations.
Any final question?
Thank you.
We appreciate you.
Thank you. It's a pleasure.
Councilmember Dixon finishes and Councilmember Bruce.
On our ISO rating, when does that next come out? Like for our re-up to like?
Soon.
Yeah,
The
it's
sticker tells
due. And my hope and goal is to delay that. We've got a new ladder coming later this year. We want to get it in service, and I want to get it on a year's worth of calls. Because it's 25, I've got 25 more feet of ladder that'll be responding to structure fires. I'm hoping to get any amount of bodies on that as well. I've got one guy responding with it. If we can put anybody on it, that will help as well. So Chief Smith is our ISO guy, and Chief, why don't you get into that a little more?
Well, and just, we were anticipating bringing some staffing recommendations to council based on where we estimated fund balance to be at the end of the current budget year. We were about $1.5 million in the black, and we talked about wherever council's comfortable. If council's comfortable with $1 million, we can bring you the additional bodies to staff that ladder truck. And then the wind blew on the 4th of July, and we done spent that. So our recommendation would be, the first thing we do is we put our reserves back in the bank, and then we bring you that staffing recommendation, because we still have a whole winter season and ice storms. And when it happens the 4th day of a new fiscal year, we hope that doesn't set the tone, but we are actively pursuing those opportunities to bring you that staffing recommendation as soon as it is fiscally
And
prudent.
we haven't received any money from the federal government.
Oh, no, yeah, it's where we would be months and months out if
Some folks
we can get an
on
appropriation.
social media that have the impression we've been given a bunch of money to clean up stuff, and we've
Reimbursement
pocketed
only,
it.
if you're lucky.
So, no money to us so far.
To answer your question, the ISO, I would expect them to call us any day. In fact, I had a phone call from the state insurance commissioner telling us that, hey, we're up for this situation, so you should be expecting a phone call pretty soon. Now, there's some advantages in attempting to delay it, and that is we're currently going through our ISO audit, and we're trying to identify anything, anywhere where we can grab a
Internally.
internally grab a 0.2 or a 0.3 here. One of those was the ladder truck. We lost points last time because we didn't have a ladder truck in reserve. We're getting a brand new ladder truck. As soon as it comes in, a ladder truck goes into reserve, so that gives us a little bit of points. So that's one reason. Another reason we just switched to a brand new nationally incident reporting system called NERIS. It used to be INFIRS, National Fire Incident
Federal
Reporting
government
System.
mandate.
That was a federal mandate. We had to move. It's not even a year old. And so we would like the chance to analyze data from that system before we ever get into, before we get into the ISO stuff. There's, it's not all fire department when we talk about ISO. There's a communications component to it. I know that they're working on backup generators, and that too counts as points. So,
A huge utility
Water
side.
distribution.
yeah, water distribution is also a huge part of it. And we have, worked in conjunction with them a little bit on a couple of things. So there's reasons to try to push it down the road. However, I'm not afraid if they don't let us do that. I mean, I'll try very hard. And then on a side note, just so you know, the other day I get these calls regularly. I don't know how many times, but a gentleman called stating, I have this letter from my insurance company and they're gonna charge me for an insurance 9. And I said, that's not right. I said, in Norman, it's gotta be a 1, and we also have a 3 rating for East Norman because it's beyond the distribution of the water distribution. And to make a long story short, after I worked with the agent for a while, we saved him, he had a house and a business on the same plot of land, and we saved him $7,500 because it went from a 9 to a 3. So those are the benefits of a good ISO rating. It's also a business recruitment type thing because, when businesses come in, first of all, they want to know are their insurance rates going to be lower, and then 2, they want to know that if something does happen, are they going to be protected by the best? And a Class 1 rating, less than 400 departments have that nationwide.
Thank you. And that matrix study, I mean, it's been a hot minute ago, and I'm still trying to parent a 15-year-old son, so. But the response times are different for, like Norman, urban, suburban, and rural.
That's correct.
And so, I mean, I understand wanting to add more out in Ward 5, but I think you don't move to 156th and Tecumseh expecting a 4-minute call from the fire department.
Certainly the NFPA recognizes that. If you do live in a rural setting, there are standards nationally that allow for, I guess you would say, longer response times. So I think it is true when you live in a rural setting, you probably expect not to have as much city service potentially. But that doesn't stop us from still trying to get there as fast as we can. And we, adding of Station 12 really connects things around the lake. And I think it solidifies at least getting us to that 8-minute, which I like out there, you know, so that's what our goal would be.
And then to really rip the Band-Aid off, and I might be the only voting person here that would like to do this, but if we detached anything east of 60th, 72nd, 84th, how much of this, call it $80 million on the screen, like goes away?
Let me be clear, the fire department is not condoning de-annexation.
Absolutely.
And we're not against it, we're not for it. But I'll tell you, to answer your question, wherever you cut that off, say you cut it off at 72nd, then we're moving people from Station 5, Station 6, there's your stations 10 and 11, right? And then you're looking at just cost for staffing our current apparatus that we have in service. So yes, you can minimize cost if the city decided to do that.
Okay, I think that's it for me for now. Thanks.
Councilman Bruce?
The inter option there for, I think it was Fire Station 7 campus. I didn't see your numbers. I'm missing something.
So the this number and this number combined.
Okay.
And this number would go up if you wanted to move the fire admin out there and create a third story.
And do the campus type facility.
But then your station one and admin would go down.
Yeah. Station costs would go down there.
So what's the preferred approach by the fire department for the campus or for the downtown move to West Main?
We chose keeping it at the Santa Fe and Main if you decided to move it there, because that's the concept we have today. So that's what's comfortable to us. But I'll tell you, I would be just fine moving it to the Station 7 and having that campus approach. Like I said, City of Edmond chose to do that. They have their fire admin with their training at a new training grounds. Works very, very well. And in my mind, it even gets us connected more to more of our people on a regular basis, because we're having these units coming in from all over the city to train up there, and we'd be right in the middle of that.
So is that the preferred approach, the campus approach, or is the downtown?
We've presented you with the downtown because that's what we're doing today, and that's what we feel comfortable with. But if you decided not to do that, we can move it to campus.
You're asking a bunch of laymen. I mean,
well, what we presented you is what we're leaning toward. That's, if you forced us, that's what I would choose. But I'm very comfortable going to Station 7 airport area.
And then Chief, this is kind of a question you brought up. I just really reconfirm what I think I know is that if there's a lower rating related to ISO, is if you have a resident, or if you have I'm just going to limit it for residents, not for commercial. I know commercial a lot more, but there's an actual increase in rates for 3 to 6%. Would that drop from 1 to 2? Is that correct?
That's what's been explained to me. Per category, it's a 3 to 6% drop or gain, depending on how you want to look at it, depending on if you're moving up to a 1 or moving down.
So I'm just thinking about my mind, the numbers related to all the.
To be honest with you, I was quoted 4 to 8%.
I mean, it's a pretty significant drop. And you were at 93 last evaluation, 93?
Yes, sir.
And the break is 90?
That's
90
correct.
The break?
Below 90 goes to a 2.
So we're a 1 and a 5 because we got a split rating because of the urban and the rural.
1-3.
1-3.
We went from a 2 when right. I was on our first when we got stations 8 and 9. That really made a dent. We were at 3-9 at that point. 3 in the city, 9 rural. 8 and 9 got us to a 2-5, and then we came in and just worked tremendously hard, getting auto aid agreements with Oklahoma City, Moore, Little Lacs, Noble, redistributing apparatus, defining more ladders to be dedicated for fire response. We could incorporate the people coming in from other departments into our community. We got pumper tankers at stations 5 and 6, so we got more water. So it's more water, more people, more ladders helps with your ISO, and that's what we're able to do. It's just a study of fire response though, okay? It doesn't count, medical call, no one's coming to help us on medical calls, car wrecks, hazmat calls, grass fires, structure fire response. That's what it's a measure of. And we did all we could do to be as good as we could there. There's not much left to scrape up. I'm trying to get the ladder in there. It's 25 feet longer than one of our ladders in service today, so you can capture that footage, and we'll have a reserve. And past that, there's probably not a lot left to scrape up.
So I'm very pleased to hear that everything you can possibly do in your power related to process procedures, training to buy down risk associated with that.
That is correct.
Everything's out of your hands. Everything else is out of your hands.
As far as we know, we're still searching.
Now, it's a team sport, and I understand that, and part of that is water delivery.
Yeah.
And he's pretty much maxed out everything that he can on water delivery.
Yes,
They do a great job. Communications does a great job.
Reliability with that last water rate increase, huge plus to make sure when they hook up to a hydrant, it's always wet on the other side.
And I just heard you mentioned about a generator and trying to buy down. We're doing everything we can, but
Well, your emergency operations center has a generator right now. I believe it runs on diesel. I believe it has a tank of a limited capacity in which that is the emergency backup should the power go down out there. During a recent storm, I believe it went down and ran for 3 or 4 days without having to be filled up. What they're looking at though is creating a generator that runs on natural gas so that you don't have to have that fill up, that it's always there and theoretically will run continuously until you no longer need it.
I understand that concept of having 2 generators related to a command center. Understand it, got it. We had that opportunity to discuss that a couple of months ago based on some letter from someone, if I remember right. I think it was from you, right? And that buys down risk for the rating. Is that correct?
Yes, correct.
Okay,
Yes.
and that's like a 0.2 or 0.1 risk buy down.
Yes.
I get it. So you're adding up all those points. And that 600,000, that's for that generator.
That's the breakover.
Yeah.
Yep.
So that is expensive. Don't get me wrong, expensive, but compared to losing the rating, it's like we made a critical mistake. Does that make sense?
That makes sense.
Okay. All right.
Well, you need to keep that rating.
Councilmember Grant?
I'm not gonna be for de-annexation, but I am curious, so, saving on stations and whatnot, even if you, in a not realistic timeline, let's say we did that, we would still have to cover fires out there, right? If we ended the line at 72nd, if there were fires on.
Mutual aid and auto aid.
Yeah.
It would be a county issue at that point. Little Lacs Fire Department, most likely, or Little Lacs Community would be probably expanding in that area, or Oklahoma City might expand in that area. I don't know. Somebody would. And then we would most likely continue to provide some kind of auto aid where we could get reciprocation. Probably still respond to the lake.
Just out of curiosity, how does that work in terms of like reimbursement for those calls if they're in city versus outside of city limits?
When we enter into an auto aid agreement, both parties are agreeing to eat that cost. So when they come and help us, they're paying for it. But when we go to help them, we're paying for it, but we both benefit in the long run.
Okay.
Now, if we go we've sent teams to Texas, right, to help with flooding. We've sent people to hurricanes down in the Gulf, all the way to Florida, wherever. We'll get reimbursement on that kind of stuff. Those are different kinds of agreements that we'll enter into with the state or the federal government. Those monies will come back to us. Certain hazmat responses outside of city limits, we're part of regional responses when it comes to that. We can get reimbursement for that kind of stuff. When we're just talking local on structure fire responses, just in our surrounding communities that butt up to Norman, we help each other and we're both eating that cost. And then, but if it turns into it turns into a grass fire and we're helping, then we're gonna apply. We recently got FMAG approval from the fire several years ago. So we applied for that. It was a lot of effort by our staff, and we'll get some overtime, we'll get some equipment, that kind of stuff coming back to us. So, but that goes back into a grass fire when we're just talking structure fires, ISO.
On our current automatic aid agreements, we built it in so that we did a benefit risk analysis to figure out, okay, how many calls does this jurisdiction have? How many do we have? So that we didn't create a lopsided situation where we go and help them 150 times in a year and they help us 3 times a year. We also built in the flexibility to dissolve the agreement for any reason at any time. So if it ended up being a situation where we were, shelling out the bucks and eating all the cost and they were not reciprocating in any way, there is a way out of that agreement.
So like Little Wax, for
How
instance.
that gets measured is where the line is drawn, how far into a neighboring agency will go and how far into Norman they'll go. So those lines get adjusted so there's equilibrium
That's
between
right.
how much help we provide and how much help we get. And then those two lines go into our ISO calculations.
And then, and the reason I also bring it up, because Councilmember Kirby had been talking about the OTA and if we were getting stuck with stuff, how to best position ourselves. So we are talking to them next Tuesday?
They can be here on the 11th at council's discretion. If there is consensus, they'll be here. I'm seeing heads nodding yes.
I have questions.
For pre-conference?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, cause I have questions about responses and everything for them.
And that conversation that Councilmember Dixon identified to establish a model where we do seek reimbursement, it would be universally applied. There are third-party billing entities, and we would send the call volume, the response file to. We know who the insured drivers are in an accident or a big rig or anything like that. Usually PDs gathering that kind of information from the actual wreck and submit the cost incurred to those insured drivers, and they figure out who's at fault, and that's whose insurance gets the bill at the end of the day. So it would be the same if it was on the turnpike. There would be an at-fault party, and that'd be an insurance company we'd be going after. We wouldn't want to try to learn that insurance billing system. We'd have to hire a lot of bodies and all that kind of stuff. We would be looking for a third-party contractor, and that model exists in Oklahoma today.
Right, thank you.
Councilmember Steele?
Yeah, so going back to, the administration building. If I remember correctly, the report actually says that the building is excellent and can last 15 years as long as it doesn't get too crowded in there, is essentially what it said. So how is space in the building? We're talking about adding all these positions and hiring on. I guess how many more bodies could you fit in the current administration building before it would have to be renovated, or none? Soon. And then I guess if we did build 10, 11, and maybe even 12 before, Station 1 administration, I guess when you build these stations, obviously you gotta staff them, but do you also have to add administration positions to manage those? If that
It sure
makes
be
any
nice,
sense.
yeah. Yeah, because you're dealing with people that we're managing our payroll, our overtime, all of those functions just continue to get piled up, and that was identified in the study, that we need to add some help there, so.
Chief Smith identified something a second ago, and we deal with this on a constant basis. In the new system, data acquisition in our new system is a huge lift right now.
Learning
with
curve.
Learning curve and getting that data, but it's also a very important component in the ISO stuff and a lot of other stuff that we do.
Yeah, that was it, thank you.
Along those same lines too, it's with Fire Station 1, we know that it's the busiest one by far. It's also the oldest one, and it's very undersized for the demand, and is way outdated. And so I guess in one scenario, we could build a new Fire Station 1 in Admond with that footprint on the existing location.
You can.
Yes. Because
Sure.
we own half that block, so
Yes.
we could put admin in a temporary location and tear down the existing admin and build a new Fire Station 1 and admin there.
You could.
But then we'd probably have to tear down Fire Station 1, the existing one, most likely.
Yeah, you just have to relocate those units to another station and.
Well, meaning that there has been some discussion about, if we build a new Fire Station 1, then we, because of its historical significance,
Yeah.
perhaps, 60s architecture is not my favorite, but
Right.
but it is an architectural style, and ideas about Firehouse Arts Center used to be a fire station. Well, if we build a new fire station one, ideas for how that existing building could be repurposed for community uses.
Sure.
But if we were to rebuild the facilities there, we would probably need to tear down that structure too, I would imagine.
Yeah.
And so that's where it is a priority, and I agree with Councilmember Steele too, that Station 11, really the whole list is a priority. It all needs to be done. And I think that's why we're bringing all these forward to us. But if we didn't do the admin with Fire Station 1, and what you're saying is that admin needs to be with either Fire Station 1 or at Station 7 with it.
Correct.
But it needs to be attached to somebody.
That's correct.
And so if we don't do it at Fire Station 1, then that cost goes down, but then the cost of the prevention and training goes up.
That's right.
By that same.
And I don't know,
Similar
if
amount.
you purchase that land next to it, you could kind of build out versus up.
And maybe
There's
that's
probably
cheaper.
some savings there, but you gotta buy the land, so I don't, but there may be a little bit of savings there.
And then to Councilmember Steele's question about, in the recommendation, like, given the gaps, or if Fire Station 1 is going east more often or whatever it may be, maybe it was just that day, who knows, but why would they, what was the thought behind this order of how to go about it, I guess? Why Station 1 and admin would come before Station 1, 11 and 12?
Well, 5 is kind of obvious, it was next.
Right.
10, the public safety study from last year just really identified that as needs to get going as soon as you can. Listening to you guys in our previous meeting, there seemed to be some desire maybe to re-envision where we currently are at 415 East Main and 411 East Main and move us. So we put it there. Nothing in stone on any of this. That can be moved down here, 11 can go right here, 12 can go right here, and we can do it. I would say that our training center, though, we really need to, my goodness, you were trying to share one shower bay with the guys working at that station with your recruits, and it's hard, we need to provide a better place to get our new people trained.
And Chief, Station 1, it's the busiest station, we think, in the state of Oklahoma, arguably. And it's the oldest, so it's that 60s architecture. When the white shirt guys said, we need a new ladder truck, they had to shop long and hard to find a new ladder truck that would fit in the building. So what you'll see when that truck shows up, and we'll bring it to the parking lot, and it's got the swivel for the ladder, it's called a mid-mount. So the ladder that's there now, the swivel part's sitting over the rear end of the truck, and the new version won't fit in the bay. So they had to go to a mid-mount that sits lower so they could clear the garage door coming in. So the challenge of Station 1 is physical obsolescence of a building, and we're gonna have to add a second engine company somewhere in there to help keep up with that call volume. So, but not a greater priority than Station 10 or 11 or 12. And that is the luxury council has, is it is your priorities that count.
A 5-year timeline, pretty ambitious to do all of them in 5 years.
It is.
28 to 2032. I say ambitious as in it'd be great to get them all, to be able to
And we
get
can
all
add
of
those
them done.
escalators and put them out. We just, for something to show you today, cost out to there, but it's gonna be your decision what gets built and when it gets built.
Councilmember Steele.
Yeah, I'll just give my final thoughts. Yeah, just on this list, once again, I would like to see Station 11 above Station 1, but below the prevention and training. Thought being, again, just the cost alone. Also, if it's built, it would take some pressure off Station 1 just from, again, what I saw in my very limited ride along. And also, I completely understand that, Station 1 is old, it was built in the 60s, but at least that area has one.
The other thing I wanted to ask about too was, and this total was about 91 million for that in my estimate. And then the recommendations in the study about not new stations, but renovations of existing ones, that's not included in any of this, so.
Correct. Station 1 was listed
As a
redo.
redo, but the Fire Station 2 and all the others that may need some attention as well, may not need to be reconstructed, but need renovations, not part of this, but is also, we have a cost for that estimated too for renovations of those stations and things.
We can certainly work on that, and we know that 2 is a 2-story, 2-company station, so it's gonna be similar to what we're saying 1 would be without the admin.
Right.
So it's gonna be more than these, less than that, but it's in that ballpark.
And a, pressing need to replace it. It's not a renovation is what you're saying.
It was a replacement, I believe,
It's
it wasn't, not chief. Station 2 is listed as redoing it, rebuilding it, raising it, and
1 and
rebuilding
2 were total replacements, 5 was a relocation.
Okay, well, I think a total cost of recommended replacements and renovations of just, what is the total cost of the fire needs? And so we can then take that all into consideration and figure out do we want to put it all in front of voters and say, this is what the fire department needs entirely? Or do we need to pare it down and prioritize? But I think that'd be helpful because I think, like the school does where they say, we're gonna touch every school property with this bond.
And
We're gonna touch every
pay it
fire
off in
station.
7 years.
Yeah. So that, I think that would be helpful, and then council can take this as the main priority, but also if we're gonna be asking voters for funding, then funding to do that stuff would seem appropriate too, to make sure that's in there. And then one of my questions too is about the increased calls. When did we start? Maybe but where we're able to respond to every medical call.
I've been in the back in the mid-90s.
Mid-90s, so, and so that's where all of our fire stations are staffed with people who are certified to be able to respond the same as a paramedic.
To work on the Norman Fire Department, you must be at a minimum an EMT basic, okay? There's 3 levels, basic, intermediate, and paramedic. And I believe, all of our people are at least a basic, and then we have something in the mid-20s as far as intermediates and probably another 25 or so paramedics. Those people are strategically placed throughout the community at stations. And as Chief Chester said, our advanced protocol program, you're gonna see those guys out at 5 and 6, or areas where MSTAT has trouble getting there, where they can, give those drugs that are needed for, seizures, heart attacks, cardiac type events, those kind of things, and use a heart monitor. So we strategically put those people where they can be of most good in the community.
Okay. And then thinking about causes of increased calls, population growth, of course, but it would seem like there might be less fires now than there were 20 or 30 years ago with better code and fire suppression and things like that, but maybe not.
It ebbs and flows. We've seen a downtrend, but as you can see in the slide before this one,
still a lot.
Fire rescues on the side of our trucks.
Yeah.
Right.
We've had conversation about the older things tend to burn down more readily than the newer things. So you look at the core, and that's our oldest part of town, and that's got the highest concentration of fire calls.
And then, I don't get to you, Councilmember. And then, I asked about the future of the current investigation center, that part of the police part. And then, future of the current location, if we did build a new fire station 1 on Santa Fe, Maine, and that opens that city-owned land to either sell it for development or incentivize residential development or affordable housing or whatever, is one of the, opens that up. And then that response to the east side of the tracks was one of my questions. I already got a question from Wallace Collins about, well, if we move it over here, delaying response to the other side. And you guys are saying there's a gap on this side right now between station 2 and 1, and so.
And that same delay is going the other way, so you're just kind of flipping your problems.
And so that's where I think it gets into that New Griffin neighborhood is probably gonna need to plan for a future downtown station there, but, and then the Center City funds, if that might be possible for Station 1, the current one, okay, I think that's the question. I think everything I had got answered.
And Your Honor, so with Catherine over here taking notes about East Main TIF, Griffin TIF, to make sure we include that type of infrastructure in the proposed uses. That's advantageous at this point in the conversation as she works on those two TIF projects to bring back to you. So it's just, yeah, what did you think about you were gonna build at the time the question was posed?
Councilmember Kirby.
I just had a couple of questions addressing Mr. Dixon, since he didn't live in Norman when the annexation actually happened. So a lot of people bought out there pre a bunch of stop signs and the expectation to have firemen. To take away 2 fire stations like that, wouldn't it be, instead of putting people's lives at risk, you know, like my dad, since y'all just saved him out at station number 6 earlier this year with your EMT service, have y'all ever considered satellite locations instead of full-blown, you know, $12 million stations? Just a brush popper, 2 brush hoppers, whatever, and then once they get to the situation, they can call and say if they need a big engine. I mean, have we ever considered just maybe downsizing the size of the station to make sure we had the emergency services out there that we need?
Certainly, we would be happy to attend any meetings where like, hey, this is the budget, this is all we can afford, what can we do? You know, we're very good at getting creative. Back in the old, you know, several decades ago when I first started, I'd hear old timers talking when we were expanding out east. There was some guy's barn they rode out of in a brush bumper. They converted a barn and had some sleeping quarters. So they've done that. With today's fire service though, and the issues we're facing, and you're better off to get a full fire company out there that can address your structure fire needs, your grass fire needs, your EMS needs. If we need to try to scale down the cost of the building, we'll look at that. But you really need 4 people out there. We work as a team, and all of our training today is done with that 4-man approach, and it works on your medical calls. It's not just, you know, we can run in that rural area 3 people on some medical calls, but you start reducing what we can do, and it affects every aspect of what we're trying to do.
Well, and if you downscale, say, 70,000 acres worth of land out of the 112,000, how much in sales tax is that going to impact your fire stations? I mean, even if you move in, because we do have a lot more neighborhoods out there than we did, and we are growing constantly, not to mention the casino and commercial coming out there. But y'all operate on sales. Don't the sales tax come for the fireman budget?
That's what.
So if you cut off 80,000 acres of land, you would lose a whole lot of sales taxes. Because I know I don't like driving the west side of Norman, so I have Amazon or Walmart or Home Depot deliver stuff to my property all the time. I don't want to hook it onto a trailer, so I put in a $2,000 order to Home Depot. Where's that sales tax go? Does that go to Home Depot or does that go to Ward 5?
It goes to the general fund, from which police and fire, parks and rec.
So to cut off the whole area, you would technically also cut off part of the fireman's budget that's already short?
Potentially so.
Okay, thank you.
I think, and this coupled with recommendations from the police department that'll be coming forward soon, that'll help us look at what a total public safety package, whether it's public safety sales tax dependent or if it's a bond of some kind. But just like a rough $150 million bond based off of the recent shelter bond for 20 years would be about $14 a month.
And we think
for your
that
average Norman home value.
We think
New
that would
police
be
and
adequate.
fire,
Yeah.
all of that list, new police department, all that, depending on what, because I don't know what to expect with the police one.
We're guessing
We're not
35 million.
We're not needing to build 4 police departments.
Right.
So, you know, I know they have other needs than just a new building with training facility and other stuff too, but just a rough estimate of like 150 based off of that number right there, and then renovation costs of other things. So, but that's kind of what we might be looking at and thinking about for combining police and fire into some kind of bond package. The first 2 PSSTs have been sales tax funded, and we've had to wait and put projects off, which has caused the cost of them. I think the original budget for Fire Station 5 was $6 million, $5 million, $6 million, and now it's potentially 12. And so that's a question to think about. With the One Transit, you know, a question there will be if One Transit does pass in Norman, Edmond, OKC as a whole. And then the question about our existing transit tax sunsetting. So then we ask voters, do we want them to repurpose that tax to public safety purposes, or keep it and do even more transit than what the One Transit thing might provide for us? So we could either have an even more enhanced transit system, I guess, or we could repurpose it, or we could do nothing and let it expire and taxes would go down by 1/8%. So there'll be several options for us to consider with that. But I would guess that addressing the staffing and capital needs of the police and fire is going to take a bond and the public safety sales tax, probably in some form of both, I would imagine, to get, because we can't use bond funds for people, obviously. So, and I think that would be the most, just preliminarily, I would think a bond would be the most effective, fastest way to get these projects done too, instead of trying to wait for a sales tax to go. So, pros and cons of both those things, but I think everyone pretty much agrees that we want to pursue getting these things done for the fire department.
This council knows, we started a adult wellness and education facility with a budget of 0, and pretty amazing facility with a budget of 0. So we're not afraid of what we're facing. We're happy to start marching down that road with council, and we'll eat that elephant one bite at a time too.
Councilor
Just for clarity, can a GO bond pay for ladder trucks and equipment and land?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so that's a huge chunk if you can put it on a GO bond.
Okay, so next steps from here, what can we expect?
Well, what we'll do, we'll jump on the call with the feds for the relocation of Station 5, get that underway. As far as we think, we'll bring you a similar presentation from the police department about location for a new police HQ, what that might look like, where that might go, generically what that sticker price looks like. That may free up great opportunities for you here on this piece of property. Or it could be built on this piece of property. Lots of options you'll have. With that cost estimate, we think you'll have the whole public safety infrastructure demand. And then we can begin that conversation about when, how much. Do you do it in one big chunk? Do you do it in smaller chunks? You pick it off. So we'll have those conversations. I did see consensus that we would have Joe E. Kelly invited to the August 11th pre-council conference. That would start at 5 p.m.
Next Tuesday.
5 p.m. I want to just make sure there is consensus for us to start the conversation about our ability to bill those drivers that cause accidents that cost the city of Norman taxpayers for that response.
Yeah.
We're happy to bring that, what that program looks like, back to you for your consideration.
Okay. So Fire Station 5, priority, get that one as soon as possible.
Absolutely.
Going. And then I would say land discussions with any property that we need to build any of this stuff to get it going as soon as possible with all of them.
So it doesn't wind up being a hotel that we gotta go try to
Start
buy
talking to the
afterwards.
church right now, start talking to whoever owns property for Station 12 and 11 and 10. Oh, 10, I guess, would be our own property, thankfully, with Saxon Park. I think that's a great idea, so. But any of the other ones, get those conversations going with people and so we can
We'll
be
type
ready,
them up.
be ready to go. Okay, and then I guess come back to council when the police department's ready, and then if there's anything else from the fire department that we need to take into consideration, okay? Any other questions from anybody else? Okay, thank you, guys. I appreciate your update and your work on this, and look forward to working on getting it all done. Okay, this meeting is adjourned. Thank